The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Scott Norton, and you're listening to Keepin' It Strong Style.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out in Barrio the Frogs. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keepin' It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith and Karen Peterson from Post Wrestling. On today's show, we'll preview Sakura Genesis and cover all its news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the network's podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store, prowrestlingtees.com/social suplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Josh, Karen, how you guys doing?
Life is good. It's been a while. I'm happy that you guys called me back on over.
Yeah, well, you know, we be fucking up. We need to have you on more often. One thing, this is one of the first tests that we've had going to video. Nobody's probably going to see this, but I got to figure out what to do with myself when you're reading the intros, Jeremy, because I'm just like sitting there like, yep. All right.
I'm so used to like singing along when it's playing, because we're not on camera. So I was like grinding my teeth. So I'm not like caught like lip syncing.
I wasn't sure if you guys were actually going to be able to hear because we're using a different platform to do the call tonight. So I didn't know if it was going to play through or not. So
we could hear it.
Perfect.
It sounded great.
Yeah, we have taken a great step forward in our streaming journey. Switched up some software, got some stuff moved around, got some
had a camera that just kept freezing, and now I'm coming into you in beautiful 320p. It's great.
Yeah, we got to figure out what's going on with young boy's camera. But besides that,
it's not my camera. My camera works. I don't know.
Well,
I'll buy another one. I don't know.
Something I don't know. But hey,
I'll dip into the Keeping It Strong Style funds and get myself a really nice camera.
Yeah, hey, why not?
I guess.
And I did not hit even go live. So that's one thing I'll have to remember when we're actually doing this thing is to actually hit live on the stream end and not just on the board.
We're not paying for this, are we?
No, all
right. As long as we're not paying for this service, that's all that really matters here.
So we're good. So all right. Stream is actually going now. No lagging, no freezing. Sounds good.
But nobody knows about it, right?
No, this is not, unless the only people who can see this are people who have access to the Social Suplex YouTube, which would be me, Rich, Trish, Sarah, and Total Talk Girls. So if they really want to, they could just log in and kind of see the behind the scenes.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, Karen, but we have added female-driven and led shows to the network.
I love that for you guys. It's about dang time.
Well, I was opposed to it, but everyone else pushed against me, so I lost.
You're lucky it's April 1st, buddy. We cleared Women's History Month, but you know what?
Yeah, Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. We had Trish on last week. Yeah, they do an excellent job. And Tone Talk with Allie, Ann, and Leah, the most hysterical podcasts out there. I die laughing listening to them every week.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed by both shows because Tunnel Talk is funnier than us, and Trish and Sarah is smarter than us. So
Y'all gotta step up your game.
Thank God we occupy this very niche space of New Japan. Otherwise, like if we weren't the Shinihon guys, we'd be out of the job right now.
Uh-oh.
Well, Trish already said I can join them if we ever decide to stop doing Keeping It Strong Style. So it'll be Trish, Sarah, and Jeremy if things go south.
Fine. And I'll start a turn of the century pioneer wrestling podcast with probably the lowest listenership of any on the network. I'll be talking about Frank Gotch, George Hackenschmidt, John McMahon, people like that. So that's what we're gonna do.
You'd be surprised. The people who love the history would be very down for that. Don't undersell yourself.
And Karen, you've been with Post for a while, but I know you've got like a ton of projects. I saw that you just wrote an awesome article for PWI. Like, what have you had going on since last time we had you on?
Oh, you mean this article for PWI?
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
on the best boys at the moment. I've been keeping some things in the iron, but kind of keep my head down and grinding on a lot of stuff. I also recently wrote the for those who love Stardom, like I love Stardom, there is a great podcast called the Stardom Podcast, and Rob Goodwin authored his second book about the top 50 matches of Stardom, and invited me to write the preface for it. So I got to get into my fangirl feelings, and now I have my name in beautiful purple ink on the cover of a book, which is so wild to me. But yeah, just doing my thing, doing the fangirl thing, but still loving what I do. So,
and then you've got a show with Wei Ting, right?
WH Park. I took over for John Pollock on Post Pro Res as the co-host, and I am now with Bruce Lord, the New Japan girl. I have the co-chair for the New Japan show coverage over at Post. Nice, on top of my column. My Joshi column. If you love the Joshis like I do,
we're gonna have to get some Post social suplex synergy going.
I mean, they like John and Wei and the guys know that I have like a handful of like wrestle families. when it comes to like in the UK, I have the guys over at Grapple. Post is up in Toronto, so you guys are. I mean, we're down the interstate 4 from one another. You are my Florida fam. You are my United States family. So I think besides Post, I've been on your show the most out of all the podcasts I've done.
Nice. Well, we got to keep you on because we don't want to get beat. So
we'll figure something out.
Well, before we jump in and stuff, first thing, so like Karen mentioned, it's April Fool's Day, which means March is over, and we got to name the March match of the month and wrestler of the month. Now, Josh, I didn't.
What's going on?
I didn't talk to you about this.
Consult me at all about this. You just decided.
So I'm pretty sure that there was no need to consult, that you would be in agreement with me on what I have listed here. Is that correct?
No, the match of the month for I don't know. I can't remember what else was in March. The match,
not the KOPW match.
Kanemaru versus Yo was the match of the month for March.
I know it was real. There's a lot of tough choices. We could have gone with Naito versus Show from the anniversary event.
Oh God! Already with the Show and Yo slander.
It hurts. I've been going through it for the last 4 years, guys. Still going through it.
But without further ado, I'll start us off. The wrestler of the month for the month of March, it could be none other than Yota Tsuji, the winner of this year's New Japan Cup. Just had an incredible run through the tournament in kayfabe, but also work rate wise, quality wise, just a stellar string of performances and matches with a wide variety of opponents, whether it was ELP, Jeff Cobb, Ren Narita, even the Evil match, and then, the finals with Goto. Just incredible stuff from Yota Tsuji. So he is, for the first time ever, our wrestler of the month.
Congrats to the Gene Blast, and he's also winning his first ever match of the month for the New Japan Cup Finals against Hiroki Goto. Awesome matchup. We reviewed it a couple weeks ago, and just the atmosphere, just the emotion. Because I mean, it was one of those where, like we said, it was kind of unpredictable. It seemed like Goto could have won, and it would have been very plausible. And also, a lot of people wanted Yota Tsuji to win, and there was a great story. They had a nice little back and forth there, great atmosphere, and Tsuji hits that big Gene Blast on Goto to get the win, become the New Japan Cup winner, and now he's marching into Sakura Genesis for another title match.
The red belt champion is Micah, right?
Currently, yes.
Yeah, so there was a joke in our social suplex group that was like, if Micah can win the red belt, then anything is possible. Goto could win the New Japan Cup and get this title.
It's very much a long burn.
So that's going to wrap up for March Match of the Month and Wrestler of the Month. And then real quick, we went to MLW War Chamber this past Friday at the St. Pete Coliseum, and there were some New Japan competitors in action there. We had Bad Dude Tito defeating Richard Adonis, a squash match, 46 seconds. There was a NJPW World TV title match. Matt Riddle defended against Kosei Vegeta, 1 in 10 minutes and 3 seconds. And then there was a War Chamber match with the team of Okamura, Kojima, the One Called Manders, and Matthew Justice, defeating the World Titan Federation of Dayboy Smith Jr., Josh Bishop, Richard Holiday, and Filthy Tom Lawler. And then there was a TV taping beforehand where we had Timothy Thatcher versus Matt Riddle, Dayboy Smith Jr. and Tom Lawler versus the Bomaye Fight Club, Alex Kane and Mr. Thomas. And then Satoshi Kojima defended the MLW World Heavyweight title against Bad Dude Tito. Josh, real quick thoughts on the MLW tapings.
Yeah, they definitely didn't have bungee cord holding the two cages together, and the sides of them definitely didn't not match one another at all.
Oh, goodness.
But thank God they got 2 rings in there, because I wasn't even sure about that one. It was a fine event. Like, once you've gone to an NWA TV taping, like, there's the bar so low. Like, this came off as like Wrestle Kingdom compared to an NWA TV taping. So there's some good matches though. You know what I liked was Star Junior and Virus. That was really good.
Yeah, had some CMLL representation there as well.
The people in the state of Florida in the Tampa Bay area do not give a fuck about the allegations against Matt Riddle.
He got big pops both times he came out, tons of bro chants, everybody fist bumping him. And RO was just like,
I popped the guy in front of me out because when it got quiet, I was like, do y'all not know about Matt Riddle? I was like, he is a bad guy. Oh, and then the guy in front of me, he started chanting just kind of like very briefly. He's like, just like Diddy.
In the year of our Lord Dolly Parton 2024. Oh my goodness.
But the show was fine. We got to meet Kosei Fujita, which was really cool. He learned what keeping a strong style was. So that was cool too. And Jeremy got to see Kojima wrestle two times?
Yeah, it was the show was booked for me. I did the Kojima meet and greet, got to meet him, and I was telling Karen before record, like, Kojima was just hilarious, the whole time. He's just like, I don't speak English good, I am Japanese. And like these 2 little girls came up with their dad, and like he's like, I'm sorry, I am Japanese.
Man, like I was telling you off air, had I known that you guys were going to the show, I probably would have asked to have gone with you, and I would have translated for that. I would have stood there and translated for that man, because he tries so hard to speak in English, but he has zero confidence.
Well, if you've been listening to the show, you would know we were going, because we've been saying it for the last 2 weeks.
Bro, I have been living under a rock. Like, everything that's going on with, like, every fandom I'm in has massive problems right now. So I'm just like basically sitting and playing Animal Crossing and knitting and just reading real books and just unplugging from all of it. 'Cause I'm just like I'm so tired.
Well, you know what? There is another MLW show coming up in a few months, and we've gotten in with the PR person there, so we could probably go all of us in there.
We'll talk about it later, but
about like June, July, or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's
but we are all media credentialed individuals, all 3 of us. So I mean, we represent major publications and outlets.
Oh yeah. So Mio Kojima was fun. Yeah, he wrestled twice, won both of his matches. It was really fun stuff. So it was a fun show. Like Josh said, we went to NWA taping a few months ago here in Tampa. One of the worst tapings I've ever been to in my life. So it's anything now is just like easy pass after going to that show.
Still walked out of not the main event, but like the TV taping main event that aired. That was shot after the pay-per-view main event. It was another War Chamber match, but this one had Akira, Sami Callihan. Who else was in that?
Jake Christ, Raven.
Raven. Like, it was just a death match thing. And
Jimmy Lloyd.
Jimmy Lloyd. Once Jimmy Lloyd came out and started pulling out forks, I was like, I don't need to be here.
You gotta get sticks. It's time to beat the traffic guy.
Yeah, it was like the trashiest like death match guys that you can all put in one cage match. I was like, yeah.
I will say there was I won't spoil anything, but there was a bump at the end of the main event that Tom Lawler's just fucking crazy. I thought he broke his neck for real.
Yeah, that was a scary spot. Man. So yeah, that aired on live on Friday on Trailer TV, so you can watch a replay. I think they're putting all the New Japan matches up on NJPW World. I think the Riddle match is already up there. So it's a fun show. Now let's move on to maybe a not so fun show. We had
New Japan Road.
We had the Road to Sakura Genesis yesterday, March 31st. It aired on video delay, so the whole show went up this afternoon. Show opened up. We had Jeff Cobb defeating Shoma Kato, so just a little 3-minute squash there. We had the Jet Setters coming back to Japan, Kevin Knight and Kushida. They defeated the War Dogs team of Clark Connors and Gato. This is setting up for the 3-way junior title match. Then we had Just Five Guys, Doki, Sanada, Taichi, Taka, and Yuya defeating Ishii Yano, Despi, Bolton Oleg, and Tomioka Hanma. Then we had Chase and Taiji Ishimori defeating Goto and Tiger Mask. So that's previewing the heavyweight tag team title match there. Then we had House of Torture and Narita, Sho, and Kanemaru defeating Shota Umino, Togi Makabe, and Yo. So House of Torture, there's a tag match coming up on Sakura Genesis. Then we had LIJ, Bushi, Hiromu, and Tsuji defeating the United Empire team of Callum Newman, Francisco Akira, and TJP. Akira and TJP are also in that junior tag match, but it does seem like they're kind of building up Bushi and Hiromu to potentially be the next challengers for the winners of that 3-way match. Then we had Shingo and Naito defeating Evil and Ujiro. So Shingo's challenging Evil for the Never title. That was a program there. And then the big main event, we had the provisional NJPW KOPW title match, the Rural Revitalization in Hamamatsu 2 out of 3 falls match, and the Great Okan defeated Tangaloa. Y'all, what did you think about the revitalization match?
As I mentioned before you went on the air in our little message beforehand, this kind of title, this gimmick title, needs to be on someone like Yano. I feel like sometimes that Great Okan, despite him being a absolute anime fanboy, it's too gimmicky for him because he has like a plethora, an embarrassment of talent that I feel like it's kind of wasted on him. That if this kind of programming is what they want to do to like entertain the fans, it's not a main event match situation. But having Ishimori on commentary for it was also kind of entertaining because he was just like eating all of that food and then trying to do anything is like the worst way to do anything. Like that's a guaranteed way to get sick.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with Karen. But more so like, I don't know. I just had the feeling watching this, like, is this so bad that it's good? Or is it just plain bad? Like, I couldn't determine between those two, like which one we were actually getting. What really put it over, I think the first one with like the multiple falls, that was fine. It was, low energy, low stakes wrestling. I guess they told a good story. There was just like not very much fire here. They couldn't tell which lane they were taking. Like, is this going to be a serious match? Are we doing comedy shtick? They didn't do enough of either one to really like determine the tone of the match. And then they did the eating contest, which like was probably a lot of people's favorite. That tells you how bad this is. The eating contest was the best part of the 3 stages of shtick that we got here. But
It
even
looked
that,
really good though.
oh,
That gyoza looked so good though.
they lied to us. They said that they were going to be eating eel, and they ended up eating what's it pronounced as gyoza?
Gyoza, or if it's basically the fried dumplings you don't get at a Chinese restaurant.
Yeah. And maybe they were eel dumplings, but I don't think they were. They were supposed to be having eel because I guess Hamamatsu is famous for eel, but they didn't.
That and pork cutlets.
So, but even that kind of lacked any like real drama. It was just them eating, and there was no like comedy haha shtick. They're just eating. I'm like, is this it? Like, this is all we're gonna do? But then they're like so blown up and sick that they go into the world's shortest strap match that you've ever seen. I mean, the strap is like literally like a yard long, like, and they didn't wrestle at all. They're just rolling around on the ground trying to stop each other. Like, I guess, the story is that they ate so much gyoza that they can't like actually like compete, and they're both getting ready to retch and everything. But like, even that was like, they went 14 minutes rolling around on the ground tied to one another, touching the turnbuckles. Like, this is bad, man. This is bad.
Did anyone translate the count of how many gyoza that they each ate?
I did not.
So Loa had about 34 and Okan had 37. That's a lot of dumpling to have in your stomach, and then trying to do literally anything, let alone something athletic, and trying not to regurgitate all of that in front of a packed house full of people in Hamamatsu.
Yeah, I didn't think it was.
Here's your local delicacy. It's great going in, not so great coming out.
I didn't think it was pretty funny. Like Okan would like get up and like try to like shake the food down so he could eat more.
He's been watching, what was it, the Nathan's hot dog at Coney Island, like the fast food, fast eating contest.
I thought that they were going to do the gimmick where like they dip it in the water and they just like put it down like the way
Like,
that kid used to.
Yeah.
But I mean, listen, that's their fault. If they didn't want to have to worry about that, then don't book yourself as that being one of the gimmicks. You like, I would have much rather we'd had the Texas death match that we were supposed to get, but we can't have nice things apparently.
Yeah, I mean, the people, this is what they wanted. I know Brian Alvarez was all giddy about this matchup and wanted it so badly. And it was rough. And yeah, like you mentioned, I didn't know what lane it was going to be in. Like, it's a serious match, it's a comedy match, and then you have the end of the strap match. And they had like the little, like the pictures of them on the corner pads that when they touched it, they ripped it off. Like, so ghetto. Because, like most companies, they have like the little like light things that light up when you touch it. And
a buzzer.
Yeah, a little buzzer thing. They didn't have that. Just some autograph, 8x10.
Normally, it's supposed to be like you touch, and then like if it gets interrupted, the count starts all over again. You have to start over.
Right.
But in this one, they're like,
we just want to get it over with.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. One of the worst KOPW title match. And also, Tangaloa, I mean, as a person, I love Tangaloa, but like, no fire, no personality. No, like, if we want to see good wrestling, he didn't give us good wrestling. If we wanted to see the haha, he didn't give us haha. He was just a guy that happened to be there. This gimmick didn't do anybody any favors.
I feel like he could have had a different match to challenge for, and it might have been a different result. Like, had it been like the Never, like, how Tama went after the Never, had it been something that had a little bit of prestige, right, instead of something that's kind of like more comedy / entertainment than actual wrestling. Because if he's going to be a standalone wrestler moving forward, now that Tom is not there anymore, I think he wants to be taken seriously as a wrestler and not just lumped into the dependable middle card workhorse comedy era.
He's probably sitting there eating that gyoza, and the look on his face,
questioning his life.
Why didn't I take that fucking money from Nick Khan? I could be in NXT. They don't have to do this in NXT.
So they just work out in the gym for 5 days a week.
Oh man.
We had some questions here. Discord Daddy says, how many gyoza could you eat in 5 minutes?
Oh, quite a few. I could put down some food, but I don't know.
It would depend on how big the gyoza are and if there's beer involved. But I prefer to. I could if I'm not rushed for it, I could easily eat 15 to 20. But 5 minutes, I probably couldn't get more than 7 without worrying about it repeating upon me.
Yeah, I think I could get some down, especially if I haven't ate. I'm, going in hungry. I think I can match up with Tangaloa and Great O'Con. I'll get 30 something in there
in 5 minutes, and have it stay down.
Yeah, just throw it back.
I don't know how many I could eat. I just know that anytime I'm at any family gathering, everyone makes a big deal about how much food I'm going to eat for some reason. So I'm surrounded by haters. So
they're just jealous.
Yeah.
Cozy Dr. Lariat says, how many unagi bowls do you think you can put down? I just had an unagi don for lunch and I need something like barley tea or just warm water to eat. Since it usually is very sweet, so a nice bowl of miso and some tempura really does pair well. How do you guys like eel, or are you guys more about the beef bowls?
I love go ahead.
It's been a while, guys. I have a shellfish allergy, and my allergist has put unagi sadly on that list, even though it's closer to a fish than it is a shellfish. But so I can't say if I could eat an unagi bowl and not go into anaphylactic shock. But I am all about the gyudon. I am a beef bowl girl. I can pack away a good beef bowl or two.
Yeah, usually if I have like an Asian beef, it's usually going to be like bulgogi, like Korean. But I do like eel a lot, but I only ever had eel in the form of like sushi. So I've never had it prepared any other way, but I'm sure it's pretty good. I don't know how many bowls of I don't eat multiple bowls of anything when I go out. I just have the one bowl and then that's it. Like I'm not Goku, just like bomb and then like throwing plates on top of each other. Like that's not real.
Well, if you have unagi sushi where it's like, the piece of unagi on top of the sushi, just picture a bowl of rice with a lot of unagi just piled on top of it. So it's like all your sushi's just put in a giant bowl. So
yeah, I could do that. That sounds good.
I've never had eel, so I don't know how much I could
Jeremy's not as adventurous an eater as I am.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of sushi or raw stuff, so I would go with beef bowl.
I took you. Well, we've been out to Korean barbecue a few times now, though.
Yeah, I like Korean barbecue.
I was gonna say, if you guys come to Orlando, there's a couple of places I could recommend that are actually authentic Japanese or endorsed by the local Japanese food that do unagi and do it, from what I hear, properly. So if you wanted to ever partake of it, I can make some recs for you off air.
Yeah, I used to have a few Orlando Asian food haunts back in the day.
My thing, I love hibachi. I can throw down a lot of Kobe.
Yes.
Let's see here. Next question from Barry Walsh. It says, with the baffling results of the KOPW match rules for the upcoming week and all the excessive use of the House of Torture, is it possible we are just slightly out of touch and the next generation of Japanese fan is more interested in this type of sports entertainment gimmick stuff? I'm getting very fed up of hoping things will change, only to see Dick Togo running again match after match, show after show. But is it possible I'm just a little out of touch and don't know it?
We touched a little bit on this while we were waiting for Josh to come onto the call, is that I think there are certain parts of New Japan's booking that are not intended for us, but more so for the in-house live crowd, especially with the increasing number of families and especially small children that are going, that there's something that you need to have something that kind of entertains the kids, as it were. And as much as we bemoan the House of Torture shtick and things like KOPW, I think that's more to appeal to the children than, and the as much as I love Sho and Ren Narita, even I tire of the House of Torture nonsense from time to time. So it's not necessarily us being out of touch, is that we just have to come to terms with that. Not necessarily everything that's booked in New Japan is designed to appeal to us as Western fans.
Yeah, that was one thing I was going to touch base on, is even though I did not enjoy the main event, I wouldn't go as far as to say that they were getting humongous crowd reactions, but there were plenty of very vocal fans that were into it, that were reacting to what they were doing. Yeah. And keep in mind again that this was video on demand for a reason, because it was essentially like a house show. Mm-hmm. And they are like in one of the like smaller towns where they don't get to see New Japan live as often. So they were kind of into this. I did have the thought though that like I swear to God, when they're eating the gyoza, I was like, I could see this being a segment on 1993 Raw, like like I was gonna do the impersonation I used to do of a certain broadcaster from WWF, but I guess that's not appropriate. I can't do that anymore.
Yeah, but I could totally picture Gato in the back almost doing the same thing, like just laughing it up and knee slapping, like isn't this fun? Like, isn't this funny? Like
yeah, I hate it so much.
Thanks, I hate it.
But one thing I will say that was good about this broadcast, I thought that it was a fine show on the undercard. I thought that I liked the Shoma Kato Jeff Cobb match for what it was, even though Shoma Kato wasn't as fine as showing. He basically showed fire in the face of insurmountable odds and just got totally crushed. And the production was really high on this show. Typically, you would expect, like, even on a VOD, that they'd have like limited cameras and kind of a lower level production, but this looked just as good as any live show that they normally do.
Agreed.
Yeah, it was a fun show for what it was. I really liked seeing Suji mix it up with the Catch 2-2 and Cal Newman. I thought that whole match was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was good. Jet Setters are back. That's good. I really enjoyed the Just Five Guys and Hantai stuff / chaos stuff. For some reason, Doki wants to smoke with Ishii, and I don't know why, but I'm here for it.
Yeah, I'm down. Run in Chicago.
Despy and Taichi, going head to head for the first time in a long time. That kind of brought back some good memories. I don't know if you guys have noticed, like Despy saying he's going to work Super Juniors. He's not looking like a junior all of a sudden. Like he's bulked up.
Him and Hiromu haven't looked like juniors for quite some time.
But like even more so. Like
it's more of a state of mind at this point.
Yeah. Like he was facing off with Taichi, and I'm like, he's basically the same size as Taichi with like maybe just an inch or two less. That's all. Like the body type's very similar right now.
Yeah.
He should be in the Never division if they're not going to make him go heavyweight.
Well, that was something me and Jeremy had pointed out like last week. We're like, this company's got 3 open weight titles. They got the KOPW, they got the Never, and they've got the Strong open weight, but they never have juniors challenge for any 3 of those titles.
That's one of my biggest pet peeves.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point? What's the point of having an open weight if it's only heavyweights?
Right. And I could understand the argument in the past when it was just the Never, and it was like, well, we got a lot of heavyweight guys, whatever. But right now they've got 3 of them, and they don't ever use them as open weight titles.
Right. That doesn't make sense at all. But we do have one more Road 2 show coming up before the actual Sakura Genesis event. There will be a show airing live on April 3rd, which will kind of be the go-home show for Sakura Genesis. So we'll have Evil and Yujiro Takahashi taking on Murashima and Shoma Kato. We'll have Tenzan, Bolton Oleg, Taguchi, Tiger Mask, and Yano taking on Just Five Guys. Despy and Yoshihashi taking on Chase and Ishimori. The Jet Setters will team up with Ishii to take on Cal Newman and Catch 2-2. And the War Dogs, Drilla, Gabe Kidd, and Gato. Then Kanemaru will take on Shingo in a singles match. Then semi-main event, we'll have Umino and Yo taking on Narita and Sho. And then the main event will be Bushi and Yota Tsuji versus Hiromu and Tetsuya Naito.
Interesting.
Yeah, so show looks pretty good. I think the 2 matches that probably stand out would be the singles match between Kanemaru and Takagi. We haven't seen them face off, I think, since Shingo's last junior run when he was in the Best Super Juniors, and that was a pretty notable match in that run. And then obviously the main event, which is all LIJ affair, and it's the preview match for the upcoming title match between Yota Tsuji and Tetsuya Naito.
Yeah, should be a fun little card.
As much as I want to love Shota Umino and Yo versus Ren and Sho, I know I'm going to hate every minute of it. I'm going to be miserable and sad.
Yeah, somehow, I don't know if you guys saw the backstage comments. Sho actually caught up to Yo in the backstage and they went behind the backdrop, and you heard like scuffles, and somehow, some way, Sho found a way, and he climbed out of the back of there with the title in hand and was able to escape. Or I'm sorry, Yo escaped Sho, and Sho, basically bemoaned how despicable Yo is and stealing somebody's title, and how dare he. So
I still stand by my thought that when they split up several years ago, Yo should have been the one to turn heel, not Sho.
I think everybody felt that way.
Yeah.
I still hope for someday that if they flip flop, if they're not going to get back together, I need it to be the other way around, because
if we could go back in time, you know how people are like, if you could go back in time, what's one thing you would like change about New Japan, blah, blah, blah. It's like Yo joins the House of Torture, and Sho is the babyface representative of chaos for all these years. Do you know how many bangers we would have had at this point if Sho had been that guy?
Oh man.
I would have rather Yo join either the United Empire, because they didn't have a junior or two at that time. Oh, I got a thumbs up. Or I would have had him join whatever war dogs they were planning on building. I would have built it back then. I wouldn't have put Yo in House of Torture. It would have just been more pain. Or put in Suzuki. Had Suzuki-gun not broken up, I would have put Yo in Suzuki-gun too.
How did you get a thumbs up? Are there people watching us?
No.
Oh, okay.
If you actually, I forget that I talk a lot with my hands.
Like if you do a thumbs up, will the
it depends. Like it's like somewhere in the screen. Yeah. I don't know why it does it for me.
And now I'm trying to get a thumbs up.
Not working for me either.
Maybe I'm just a magical girl, makes magical or my mutant powers, I break technology. It's one of the two.
Your what's her face? The magical girl from AEW, what was her name?
Yuka Sakazaki.
Yuka Sakazaki.
Yeah. I don't think I could pull off a genie outfit. I'm not nearly as cute as Yuka is.
All right, let's talk about Sakura Genesis. This is coming up April 6th. Show will open up with the Frontier Zone. It will have Bolton Oleg, Toriano, and Tomohiro Ishii taking on Chicharito Shoki, Takuro Niki, and Ayato Yoshida.
Yeah, the interesting thing here, Ayato Yoshida was a trainee with Kaientai Dojo several years ago before they turned into, what did they turn to?
Just Tap Out.
No, they're not.
They turned into Active Advanced Wrestling after Taka Michinoku departed the company and rebranded himself as Just Tap Out.
Right.
But yeah, he was in the class with Umino and Narita.
Right. He was the trainee from Kaientai Dojo / AAW, and then once the partnership between New Japan and that company kind of split with the whole debacle with Taka Michinoku, we kind of lost Ayato Yoshida. And at the time, it seemed like New Japan had big plans in place for this guy. They saw him as blue chipper, and they were already pairing him off with Shota Umino. And that was like an early rivalry in the history of Shota Umino that a lot of fans who weren't watching him as a young lion probably were not aware of. And now suddenly here he is all these years later coming back. Obviously their careers are in very different places at this point in time, but I would love if somehow this Frontier Zone was a way that we could poach away Ayato Yoshida from whoever he's working for to come work
with Active Advanced Wrestling out in Chiba.
All right, well, we need to get him into Tokyo.
I mean, it is a lovely dojo, but it is literally in the middle of nowhere in Chiba, but like closer to the airport area of Narita.
Yeah, we need to get him in the Noge and find out how we can get this guy signed to New Japan, because that's kind of like a lost name, and it'd be awesome. He's a great wrestler.
Yeah, I'd be down to have him back. I think it'd be a great addition, as we're trying to, push younger stars and get some fresher talent in there. Bringing him back on the scene, I think, would be a great thing for the roster.
And he's been fighting heavyweight for several years and working he kind of makes the indie round. So I think he's done some stuff at All Japan. He's done a lot of other stuff. It would be great also. I mean, if we're going to start throwing out names for possible people to be in the G1, it might be a good opportunity for him if they want to truly put someone fresh in the G1.
Yeah.
But that'll be interesting. I don't know the Chicharito Shoki. That sounds very familiar, but I don't think I know them. I don't know.
I think they're also from Active Advanced Wrestling. I think they're all from the same company, or they're independent guys.
I would love for Frontier Zone to be like how WWF back in like '84 was like, yeah, we'll feature your guys, and then they poached them. That's what New Japan needs to do. Like Frontier Zone, we're gonna give you guys a nice little stage, bring you on. You know?
Let us book Frontier Zone. we'll give them these are the people you need to sign.
Oh man, but yeah, that will be good.
Then following that, we will have El Desperado and Rich Kataguchi versus the TMDK team of Kosei Fujita and Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah, kind of interesting because we're getting Despy facing off with ZSJ again, so another Suzuki-gun reunion kind of there. But this is sort of just like a group of guys that don't have anything going on at the current moment. Like Zach has sort of been doing a lot of tag matches ever since he got eliminated from the New Japan Cup. Good to see Kosei Fujita back, but like Despy is sort of in a similar vein. He hasn't been used predominantly on these tours, and him and Taguchi both seem to be gearing up for Super Juniors more so than anything else.
Yeah. We did have a question here from Rambone Slam Pig. He says, ZSJ has been working openers and open weight tags a lot since losing the TV title. I hope that this was a failing up situation, that he was looking at the Gaijin Ace role. Now I'm not quite sure. Any thoughts on his trajectory?
I think the difficult thing is they have an opportunity to make him the foreign ace for the company now that, Osprey's gone, Tama Tonga's gone, and there's like this vacancy there. The problem is they've also brought in people that they've put on, kind of not prioritized on top of him, but bringing in Matt Riddle, bringing in Nick Nemeth, Ghetto trying to do some kind of push with David Finlay, then yanking the carpet out from underneath him. So it's one of those things where there is the opportunity, but I think part of the role of somebody who is the front man or the guy, it's the same thing with Jeff Cobb working the undercard shows. I think sometimes they need that role because you have the New Japan dads, as it were, kind of breaking down at this point. Tanahashi's on the shelf, as much as I love me some Tenzan and, Makabe, they are moving a bit slower than usual. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, especially if they have downtime, with the possibility that they're saving, hopefully, if they're smart, they're saving Zach for something like winning the G1. Like, let him have a couple of months to relax and recharge and heal up, and so he can start doing all the things. But, just because you're the front man doesn't mean you have to be at the front of every single thing. I think a guy who's willing to work the entire range of the card and not be a bit upset about it, like don't let your ego get in the way of it, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I like that he's getting an opportunity to, more, if anything, mentor Fujita along the way.
Yeah, I feel like Zach is just kind of in a weird, like, booking limbo right now. Like, he dropped the TV title, then he kind of bounces back. He beats Bryan Danielson. That's kind of a, failing up moment there. He beats Danielson. He's elevated back up the card. And then he, loses to Narita in New Japan Cup due to the House of Torture interference. And so now he's kind of back to where he was. And now he's teaming here with Vegeta. And then today on Twitter, Matt Riddle issued a challenge to Zack Sabre Jr. for the TV title at Windy City Riot. So now he's kind of back in this TV picture. I think it's very clear, like, they want to push it, but it's clear that there's other plans kind of happening around the world title, Naito, Moxley, like, there's a lot going on there. And they're kind of having to put Zack on the back burner until they kind of, fill out the plans that they have for this title.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, that's another, part of this, the whole AEW thing. You've got Mox, waiting in the wings right now. And then obviously, like, Eddie Kingston's still the strong champion, that sort of thing. And Zach is sort of a little bit in a no-win situation with the Matt Riddle match, because the match will be great. Obviously, those guys work together really, really, really well. But if he wins, he's back at square one where he was with the TV title, which he had an incredible run, so incredible that he can't surpass it a second time, most likely. And even if he did, do we want to see him hold that title for another year of his of his life and his career? And if he loses, now he's back down the ladder a little bit. So not necessarily an ideal situation for him.
Yeah.
I feel like that match with the Riddle will probably go to since it's a 15-minute time limit, it's probably gonna go to a 15-minute time limit draw.
Yeah, they could.
And then he can advance on to other things.
Yeah.
More important things.
Yeah, they've made a really big point on commentary of saying that Matt Riddle is very adamant that he not get close to the 15-minute time limit, and he's been having very short title defenses, and they've all admittedly been sub 10 minutes. So maybe that is the story. Like, he doesn't beat him, but he's the one guy that was able to hold him to the 15-minute time limit.
Yeah. So then following that, we will have Bushi and Hiromu Takahashi taking on the War Dogs team of Dave Finlay and Gato.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I can't wait.
You mean you don't need the Rebel, Josh? We all need the Rebel. In case you didn't know, you need the Rebel. I need the Rebel. We need the Rebel.
I guess so.
Like I was saying earlier, I feel like they're getting Bushi and Hiromu ready for a junior tag title challenge because they've been teaming a lot together. They've been winning a lot. And so I think they're going to challenge the winners of the three-way later. We do have a question here from NJPW Fan 13. Says, my question is, when Dave Finlay returns, do you put him straight in the mix for the IWGP World Championship, or does New Japan rebuild him with either winning the IWGP Global Championship or never Openweight Championship, or have Dave Finlay win the G1 Climax and then have him win the IWGP World Championship at Wrestle Kingdom?
No, and no.
I mean, I could see him queuing up to challenge at Dontaku for the World Heavyweight Championship just because that Dontaku is Bullet Club Festival Day. And that's what we have on the docket after Sakura Genesis and Windy City Riot. The next stop is Dontaku at the first weekend of May, where they're doing 2 nights in Fukuoka. I feel like with them hot-shotting the global championship onto him, then taking it right off as soon as Nick Nemeth came in, I don't want him to go back for a title that he just had and just lost, but I could see him going for the world championship and not necessarily winning it, or finding some nefarious means to win it despite us not wanting it because Geto wants what Geto wants, and Geto wants Bullet Club to still be a thing, even though a lot of us don't want it to still be a thing.
Him losing the title to Nick Nemeth and then winning it right back, though, would be a very Gato booking sort of trend. He's done that.
Yeah. I guess it just depends on how long they can afford to keep Nick Nemeth as champion.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's getting that Mercedes Monet.
I
highly doubt it.
I don't think he is. I mean, look at all the indie bookings he's doing. I mean, he's all over TNA. He's all up and down the indies. He's working all these little random indies, winning belts all over the place. Like, if he was getting a big money deal from New Japan, I don't think he'd be working all these different shots.
Maybe and maybe not. I mean, now is the time to strike while the iron's hot to maximize his asking price for those indie dates. And there's very few stars on the independent circuits right now. He's got some pretty prominent matches coming up WrestleMania weekend. So I think if he has the time and the means, why not do it? Even if he is getting, I'm sure he's not working for pennies. Working for New Japan. Yeah. So
I feel like in that sense, he's pulling a page out of Cardona's book and trying to be the next king of the indies just by doing everything he couldn't do for the last, 20 years? That's how long he was in WWE. Like, he's been in WWE for very he's I think he's just trying to get as much and as not much experience, but as much like bucket list items off his list as possible.
You mean the list, like the Cody list?
Or he could be back in WWE in a few years. Who knows?
I really wouldn't doubt that either. Speaking of TNA, I mean, considering the people that are in this match, the one question I really have is Hiromu going to get an X Division title match in Chicago? Because that's what should be happening.
I mean, I don't see why not.
I wouldn't say no to that.
I mean, if Mustafa Ali wasn't a coward, you got.
You mean this Mustafa Ali?
Yeah, if he's not scared, if he's.
I don't think he is.
I
also want him best Super Juniors, so.
if he's a fighting champion, then he would put his title on the line, you know?
Well, he has to run it by his cabinet and, his executive office. They have, you know how things work in government, it goes through
bureaucratic red tape.
Right.
Hiromu did say he wanted to point out to Mustafa Ali that he no longer brings Daryl to the ring because Daryl's had a tough life after the Fale incident, but he might be bringing Daryl Jr. to Chicago because right now Daryl Jr. is already in America on his excursion. So it might be the right time to bring him, back from that excursion.
Yeah. So following that, we'll have the United Empire team of Callum Newman.
Do you love how me and Jeremy just didn't answer anything about David Finlay there? We just
Well, no, you did. You said no, and no.
Yeah.
That's an answer.
I agree with Karen of I don't want to see him back in the global picture because I feel like, if he challenges, he's probably going to win it back. I don't know. He's kind of in a weird booking spot as well. I could see him challenging, like Karen said, at Dontaku because I think John Moxley's winning in Chicago, and there's still heat between Mox and Finlay, so you can run Finlay versus Moxley for the world title at Dontaku.
Great. Two tough white men. Can't wait. It's so
and
good.
Mox is going to sneeze and start bleeding all over him, so it'll be fine.
Yeah. So that's definitely a possibility. Besides that, I think the global title will probably be his best bet. I don't see him winning the world title anytime soon. He could be a challenger of Dontaku. He might do fine in G1, but I don't really see this big long-term trajectory of we need to get, Finlay in a world title match come Tokyo Dome.
I could see him going in as the global champion at some point for the Dome, but I feel like he needs to have whatever upper card title they give him. He needs to have a good run with it because that was the one that really solidified Jay White was when he had the IC belt. He had a decent run with it, and I think that's what he needs. He needs something that isn't the never. As much as I love the neverweight guys that wrestle there, he needs credibility, and that's the one thing that they kind of sabotaged with in regards to the global championship.
It's too bad he didn't destroy, a U.S. title that had a long, lengthy history and a lot of credibility.
Don't get me started on that. That's a different can, Joshua.
How about we get Finlay the TV title? So all his matches can just be 15 minutes or under.
Give that to Evil, because then we keep House of Torture matches to under 15 minutes.
No, let's give it to Ishii. So they'll actually be good.
Yeah. He comes in, beats up people, leaves. That's all he does.
He's already held the TV title in ROH before. He's got history there.
Yeah.
Karen, did you ever see the interview where he thought that was WWE?
No. Oh, bless his heart.
Well, he just didn't know the difference. He's like, yeah, I was champion WWE once or something. And they're like,
oh, no.
And they're like, no, that was ROH. And he's like, what's the difference? It was America.
It was America.
Do you not watch American wrestling? He's like, no.
He comes to America. He does his matches. He gets on a plane. He goes back to Japan. That's all he does.
He's like, I guess they have a new brand, Ring of Honor. Okay.
He's like, I don't know. I was a champion in America one time.
I fought this Roderick Strong guy.
That sounds like the most Ishii comment possible.
So thoughts on the 6-man here. Newman, Okan, Cobb against Doki, Sonata, and Yuya.
Keep busy match.
Get everybody on the card match.
Road 2 match, but there's some really good talent there, so it should be good.
Yeah, somebody from the Just 5 Guys side could pin Okan to set up another KOW match.
Could, but we're probably going to be seeing Callum Newman eat the pinfall to Yumura, because Yumura has been beating pretty much everybody in these multi-man tag matches night after night. So trying to rebuild him, I guess, after losing the hair, even though they've changed nothing about his gimmick or personality or motivation.
He's just winning now.
He's just winning.
In all fairness, between Uemura and Tsuji, Yuya could afford to lose the hair. I don't know if Suji would be able to pull off the shaved head look that they're now stuck with. But yeah, I mean, as much as I would love to see another wonderful King of Pro Wrestling quality matchup set, I don't know if I want to see Sonata go after one of the only titles he has not held by pinning Great Khan. But
well, if there was anybody in that group that kind of would be angling for that KOPW title, it'd probably be Yuya Uemura.
Give him something to do.
Yeah.
But I don't
get him ready for the G1, please.
I would just like for them, like, I'm fine with him having lost the hair, but I'm a big fan of the guy. So I'd like to see something like, it seemed like the whole idea was break him down so we can build him back up.
Yeah.
So what are we building him up to? Like, we need some clear direction here.
Oh, you know what?
The difficulty is him and sorry.
Another thing, the Never Openweight tournament's coming up, so maybe one of these trios will be in that tournament.
Yeah, I think that we've already gotten one of the trios. It's going to be the Bull Club Tag Team Champions teaming with Ishimori. That's like one of the guaranteed teams for sure at this point.
What are you going to say, Karen?
No, with his haircut short, him and Yuya and Sonata look too much alike. They look like they were prepared to be a tag team, and I don't want that. I don't want Sonata to get back into the tag team picture. I want him to do something that's not a tag team wrestling.
Why? It's what he's best at.
I know, but again, I also want Yuya to be able to stand on his own 2 feet and not be stuck in a tag team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It seems like, I mean, he's winning, but I don't know if they have any singles aspirations for Yuya right now. And then Sonata, I feel like, he's done, man. He's lost the world title, lost New Japan Cup finals.
You notice how like we're lamenting where Zach and to a lesser degree like David Finlay are, and we're like, what's next? They're in such weird places. And then we're like, Sonata, the former world champion who just lost his title. We're like, well, he's in the 6-man. That makes sense. Moving on.
I'm kind of resigned to it at this point, just because as much as I love Sonata and I waited very long for Sonata to win singles championships in New Japan, they did not book him for success as a US champion. Or, well, I mean, it couldn't be avoided because, Ospreay accidentally broke his eye socket. Or as world champion, there's no memorable match for Sonata. It was all about Naito getting the belt back. That's all Sonata's run was, and that makes me sad.
It's gonna make the Naito fans real sad come Chicago.
Well.
So following that, we'll have the first title match of the evening with the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team title match. The champions, the Bullet Club War Dogs team of Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney, will defend against Catch 22, Francesco Akira and TJP, and against the Intergalactic Jet Setters, Kevin Knight and Kushida.
I feel like they've been poising TJP to go heavyweight because that's all he seems to be talking about lately. So I don't think it's going to go back to them. And as much as I love seeing Kushida in a New Japan ring, I don't think him and Kevin Knight are meant for those belts either. I feel like Clark and Drilla are going to keep it, and then Hiromu and Bushi are going to be the next challengers, because I don't think they've ever held the tag team championships as a tag team. Like, they've held it with other people, just not together.
Yeah, I think,
and that could be your whatchamacallit, Dontaku match for those guys.
I think the match is going to be great. You got 3 really good junior teams in there. They're going to work really hard, and they're pretty high up on the card here. Well, they're in the middle, but they're sort of like the kickoff to the serious matches on the show. Yeah. So I think that they're going to probably get like around 15 minutes, maybe a little less than that, but they're going to go all out. And I'm kind of thinking that the Intergalactic Jet Setters pick up the win here. The reason I'm thinking that, Francesco Akira, TJP, we just seen them run with those titles 3 times in a row. They could give them a 4th title run, but the whole thing with TJP and the weight shifts and United Empire kind of being like rudderless right now just doesn't make sense to me. And with Clark Connors and Drill Maloney, sure, they could retain, but Drilla did have that recent bicep injury. I don't know how healthy he is to go long term. Okay. The other thing too is they just lost Alex Coughlin, and if there was a guy that you wanted to shift upwards real quick, it could be Drilla Maloney. He's got the size and the power to be a heavyweight. So maybe this could be the start of a swan song for this tag team and kind of shift those guys' alignment or roles a little bit. And Jet Setters, I mean, they can win the junior tag team titles. They're two guys that I think will be complete. I think they're both going to be in Super Juniors, but they're both non-entities when it comes to winning that tournament. So having the tag titles on them makes sense for them to be somebody that can just, set up another tag match down the line. They could even defend those belts in TNA at some point. So I think, to me, that's the match. And plus, a lot of times when people come back and make big splashy returns, they like to just throw a title on them for credibility's sake. So I think that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement with you there, Josh. Yeah, I feel like with them coming back, we had the whole call-out video package, and back on this tour. We haven't seen them in a while. I think that they're probably going to use them for this quote-unquote junior season. So you put the belt on them. Like you mentioned that they're in Super Juniors. They can be champions in that tournament. And then come Dominion, they could drop the belts back to whoever and then be gone again.
And that's what happened with them last time that they won the titles. They won it just before Super Juniors, and they dropped it right after it was over, and they went home.
So yeah, it could probably happen again. But regardless, I do think Hiromu and Bushi will challenge whoever wins. And you can do Hiromu and Bushi against those guys. That'll be a fun matchup for Dontaku or Taiwan or what's the show in May in US?
No.
Resurgence, I think, is the May US show.
Oh, the US show.
Yeah.
I've got an idea for the US show if I may be so bold.
Oh, go for it.
Because Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley are now free agents.
That's a good point.
So, I mean, as much as I would love for them to rock up at Dominion to challenge whoever's at Dominion, I could easily also see them showing up at Resurgence or another US show.
Yeah, and they're sort of in that spot where they could challenge for either or any three of the tag titles that are out there, whether that be the heavyweight, the junior, or the strong open weight. It's hard to really kind of pigeonhole them in any one particular role.
Maybe the Machine Guns will be the ones to unify all three titles.
I guess.
Yeah, don't go getting crazy there, Jeremy.
We had a question here from Rambo and Slam Pig. Do you think Drilla is destined to graduate to heavyweight to fill an Alex Coughlin-sized hole in the War Dogs lineup? If so, do you think the Intergalactic Jet Setters get the win at Sakura Genesis, or are they not a team that the Bookers are likely to strap up? They haven't been given a whole lot as a singles or a tag team to this point, so we kind of touched on that.
Yeah, I think I'm similar train of thought as Rambo and Slam Pig here.
I mean, the other thing I could think to at that end would be possibly figuring out how to finally fit Kenta and Chase Owens into the Bullet Club dynamic. That would be the only other thing I could think of, because them and Ishimori are still part of Bullet Club, even though they're kind of off on their own little island, like away from House of Torture and away from the War Dogs. They're just kind of there. So it all depends on what their plans are, because, you could put, you could put Clark Connors and Ishimori together as a tag team. But a lot of muscle. Pardon?
A lot of muscle.
This too much muscle, possibly. But it all depends on what their plans for, if there's going to ever be a fully unified Bullet Club, or if they're just going to start tapering people out.
Well, did you see the Bloodline family tree? It's kind of like that.
The Bullet Club family tree is kind of like that.
Yeah. And the OG Bullet Clubs are sitting like at the top, and then it like kind of crescendos down, and somewhere you've got the Rogue Army. Somewhere down there you've got the guys from TNA. They're still down there. What's their names?
Ace Austin, Chris Bay, ABC.
ABC,
they're down there.
And that's the thing, is that they've been gone for so long that I've completely forgotten that they too are technically part of Bullet Club.
Mia Yim is down there somewhere. A lot of people on this.
Mickey's doing her best.
It's so good. You got the Bang Bang Scissor Club in there somewhere.
Don't even get me started on that.
So it's a big family. Did you ever see on that on the real family tree, like the Snookas is like they're like the cousins of the third grand or of like of a high chief of Samoa. It's like they're not even connected. There's a bunch of strands on that family tree that are not actually bloodline connected, but the name of the group is the bloodline. But there's a bunch of people that are not actually related by any sort of blood relations. It's hilarious.
You see,
It's kayfabe, brother.
there was a blood pact though between two of the high chiefs. You know, they cut their hands, shook hands, exchanged blood.
Well, that's what happened with Evil and Fale when they were coming to agreement on the House of Torture and Rogue Army giving up the territory.
Oh man. So following that, we will have the IWGP Tag Team Title match as the champions of Bullet Club, Chase Owens and Kenta, will defend against Bishamon, Hiroki Goto, and Yoshihashi.
I mean, if Bishamon doesn't win here, then just that's it. Let's wrap up the titles entirely. They don't have a purpose at that point because we've got the worst champions that we've ever had in the history of this title's lineage as the champions right now.
But TMDK is right there, and they still haven't held these championships. For the love of God, put these belts on Mike and Shane, please.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling why that hasn't happened yet.
Like, they've had so many opportunities. They don't need. I mean, I know they're in the New Japan Strong Openweight 4-way coming up, but I don't understand why they have not held this championship. It makes me cuckoo bananas. It makes me so mad.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think they would be a good team to probably challenge the winner of this match. But yeah, I mean, I want Chase and Kenta off these belts ASAP.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah, I think I can't think of anybody that wants them on those titles. And if that person exists, I don't know if I want to know them.
If it was Kenta and Ishimori, maybe, but not Kenta and Chase.
I don't have high hopes for the match. If the match is, somewhat entertaining and competent, I'll be thoroughly impressed because I just don't have good expectations. But ultimately, I think Bishamon are gonna be champions again, so that's the silver lining at the end of the storm.
Yeah. And we had a question here from Def Triangle 720. If Bishamon wins the tag belts, who should be the next challengers?
TMDK.
I would say TMDK, but it's like they need to beat Bishamon, so then Bishamon having won the titles here is like superfluous. And TMDK, if they lose another title shot, that'd be like 4 in a row that they've lost. So I don't know. I think maybe you give Bishamon one title defense successful, then they drop it to TMDK at like Dominion or something like that.
Yeah, I think TMDK should they should win it, but they should. If they challenge next, then they would have to beat Bishamon. So I think Dominion would be a good spot. I mean, you could bring in the Machine Guns, like Karen mentioned, to challenge next. We do have Resurgence coming up in California. That could be a match for the U.S.
I'm sure Monster Sauce is not doing anything. I mean, Tony Khan barely uses Archer. Like that could be a thing if you wanted. I don't know. There's teams.
Yeah.
Let's go through the World Tag League lineup. Let's get Nagata and Suzuki back together and have them challenge.
I mean,
Suzuki hasn't worked in this company since the end of World Tag League.
Yeah.
I don't think he's coming back.
He's on the he'll be on Windy City Riot.
That doesn't count. That's in America. He works every show in America.
he does he's getting ready for his annual migration to his Murder Grandpa North America tour.
Mm-hmm. He's ready to get he wants to get some more con bucks. He'll probably wind up on Dynamite randomly.
Probably.
So following that, we'll have the match here for Karen's Heart and for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title match, as Sho will defend the title against Yo. Karen, this is all you.
Now, as we talked about previously and earlier, if Yo shows up like he actually gives 2.5 flying you-know-whats, not in his denim getup, not playing... Like, even the interview that they just recently posted on New Japan, they haven't translated into English yet, but it's just like, I love you, but I feel like he's been checked out and on autopilot ever since Roppongi 3K broke up. Like, he hasn't felt serious about anything except when it came to Best of the Super Juniors. But the last year, I just feel like he's treading water. But again, same thing with Sho. I've always wanted Sho to win the junior championship. But the moment he won it, it was very much me screaming at 5 o'clock in the morning at the TV, not like this. Very much the monkey paw was just like, joke's on you, lady. If they show up ready to do what they did at, was it Wrestle Grand Slam a couple years ago when they first broke up and they had that blood feud going? Sure. If it involves House of Torture BS, Super Juniors is right around the corner. That's basically where I'm at with it. I want them both to succeed, but I feel like they've consistently not been set up for success since they've split up.
I think that they've been given multiple opportunities on big stages, one-on-one against one another, to rise to the occasion, and for whatever reason, I just don't think as tag team partners they had great chemistry, but I think as opponents for one another, they just don't, for whatever reason. Maybe a lot of that has more so to do with Sho's gimmick. I don't know, but I've been watching the product. I know what a House of Torture title match looks like. It hasn't deviated. The one exception would be the Ren Narita Zack Sabre match, where it was like the clearly toned down House of Torture shtick, which was probably like a directive somehow from like Zack and his crew. If he's like, if I'm going to lose, we're not doing all that bullshit. But I don't know. I don't have high hopes here. I think the interesting story aspect is like the winner of this has got to turn around and likely defend this title against somebody in May. And then we're going right into Super Juniors right after that. Yep. So it's like, I guess it's pretty self-explanatory. Like, one of these guys is going to maybe potentially be the champion heading into Super Juniors. You know, we're one title shot away from that being the case. And so I'm wondering, like, do I see either of these guys being somebody that could, the way the tea leaves are reading, it looks like we might have the Super Juniors final headline Dominion potentially, or at least be like a semi.
Yeah.
And like, are Sho and Yo the guy that they should be chasing? Or do I think that one of these two guys is going to turn around and drop the belt to, you know, a perceivedly bigger star in May? And who would that even be? Like
Robbie Eagles.
I would love for it to be Robbie Eagles.
I feel like they could have Robbie Eagles come in, win the Super Juniors, and be the one to challenge either of them, because Robbie can have a great match with either of them. But if this was 2020 Sho or 2021 Sho before the turn and before Yo came back, or Yo during his Super Junior run against Hiromu, if those are the guys that show up on Saturday, then we're going to have a good match. I just have zero faith that we're going to get either of that.
No, I'm not wondering about who's going to win the tournament and potentially face them. I'm wondering, do either of them have the goods to be the headliner night after night during a Super Juniors tour?
They haven't been set up that way.
Right.
If the tables were turned and Yo was the heel and Sho was the face, possibly. So but as they are now, no.
I'm already looking at May and being like, who's the person in May that's going to beat one of these two guys that can carry the Super Juniors tour and be that headliner? Maybe.
Robbie Eagles.
I don't know.
I mean, what if Ali beats Hiromu and then Ali gets a title match at Resurgence and then he comes in the Super Juniors as champion?
So he'd be the unified IWGP and X Division champion?
Yes.
I don't know. That's another, I know he's not a white dude, but that's another gaijin to bring in, and like, that's a lot of foreigners.
Or Francesco Akira, but I part of me doesn't think Akira is ready for that role either.
Yeah, I feel like them kind of dumping Despy and Hiromu earlier this year so soon was kind of a strange decision narrative wise.
It's old reliable. It's their Naito Okada. That's it. You know what I mean? Like it's just the junior division needs to figure out who they are without Hiromu and Despy, because those two guys aren't going to be in like they both they have the possibility to do bigger things beyond the junior division. Same thing with Kushida. Why hasn't Kushida won an open weight championship?
Well, we know why.
I know.
He went to WWE.
Because I can't have nice things. That's why.
No, I'm not opposed to the division moving on. I think it's necessary. I just think it was strange for them to have done it. They could have right now had those guys, one of those two guys as champion while we kind of figure things out, and then somebody who's ready could beat them for the title. Instead, we had Show win via count out.
Yeah. Despy could have easily gone into Super Juniors as champion and been fine.
Right. And I feel like Despy, I think we're going to turn around and maybe put the title right back on Despy, which is like, now we're going backwards. What was the point of all this? This is, working against ourselves. It's not necessarily the great Edo booking that we're, accustomed to being able to champion.
Yeah. Not really looking forward to this one. And there's been a lot of shenanigans in the build. Everybody's stealing the title, and I think Yo still has possession of the title as of this recording. And I don't know. I think there's always bad luck when you are the challenger that steals a championship going into the title match. I feel like,
do they ever win?
I feel like a champion always wins.
I mean, Show did.
Gets the belt back.
I guess that's true.
So I feel like, there's going to be some House of Torture shenanigans, and Show is going to win and retain, and that will be the heat for Super Juniors. Like, who can be the one to actually beat Show? Who can get the belt off of Show? And that will be the build to, well, I guess for the finals. Like, Show doesn't have to be in the finals, but whoever wins the finals, like in challenges in July, I guess pre G1 or after G1, could be the one to finally beat Show. We had a question here from the Discord Daddy. It says, Karen's boys have gone fully off the rails since she's last appeared on the show. How's her feelings towards them changed during this time?
I made the joke off air about this because the way that it was written is that Discord Daddy's name was right next to mine, so it reads Discord Daddy Karen's boys. So for April, for the Keeping It Strong Style family, I'm your Discord Daddy now.
On our Discord?
I don't think so. I am very much a Luddite when it comes to Discord. I lurk in a couple of places, but I really don't. I just let Discord snitch on me when I show up in a place, and then I just don't ever post or respond to anything. I want to keep in my heart of hearts that it's I need to trust the process and that they'll finish the story eventually. But again, as I've said repeatedly on this episode in particular, they are consistently not set up for success. And I don't know what it's going to take short of either flip-flopping their roles or turning Show face, which I don't know if House of Torture is willing to let him go at this point. I mean, they just got Jack Perry. They could afford to lose somebody, but I wouldn't even know how they would break him away from them at this point. But of course, the story would be, it needs to be very much like all the other tag teams that were reunited. He needs to see the light at some point, and Yo has to be the one to do it for him. But I think they're good wrestlers. I just feel like Show's talent is absolutely wasted on this House of Torture gimmick. It makes me sad because he could be so much more. Yeah.
Agreed.
Says your Discord Daddy Karen.
Sorry, MJ. We have a new Discord Daddy in town.
I'm your Discord Daddy now, MJ. Sorry.
Jack Perry is one of those guys that could hypothetically win that title as well, potentially. And with him being House of Torture and it being May and Dantaku, Bullet Club.
I mean, but they've been pushing him as a heavyweight though. Yeah,
because he's fighting Umino, so it's
but he could vacillate between those two weight classes pretty easily.
Yeah. So moving on from that, the 8th match of the evening will be Jon Moxley teaming up with Shota Umino to take on the aforementioned Jack Perry and Ren Narita.
Speaking of daddies, yeah. His daddy.
The Death Rider daddy.
Had to run and tattle.
I'm going to call my dad to come beat you up.
I don't think it's any coincidence that Jon Moxley just randomly showed up on this show just, a week or two prior. It's just 1 week prior to his potential, if all things go well, title match against Tetsuya Naito. So, maybe they're kind of tipping their hand a little bit there.
My frustration with this is that Umino has been Jon Moxley's young boy since he was a young boy, and he has not been a young boy for over a year and a half now. And I feel like they use it as a crutch to help Umino get over at some points, where it's like, when in doubt, let's just bring Papa Mox back. And that shouldn't be how it is if he's meant to be one of the guys who's supposed to be carrying the company forward now that there's an Okada-sized hole in the company. So it's one of those things, like, I understand what they're trying to do with the, trying to weave in Jack Perry and Ren Narita and those storylines. But I just wish, don't get me wrong, I do enjoy Mox and I do enjoy some of the stuff he does in New Japan. But at the same time, I'm just like, when will Shota Umino be able to stand on his own? Because he has too many personalities. He has too many gimmicks that belong to too many other people. And Mox is a big part of that.
I'll tell you when. In the Dome on January 4th.
2025.
That's what I think is happening.
Umino versus Moxley, or Umino versus
Moxley for the title. I think Umino is going to win the G1, and he's going to take the title off of Jon Moxley in the Dome, and that will be his Wrestle Kingdom 3 Muto passing the torch to Tanahashi moment. I'm very confident of this, and I rarely ever make predictions this far out, but I'm reading those tea leaves, and I think that's
it's April. It's a little early in the year.
I know, but somehow, some way, I think that's where we're going, and I think that's where this is all leading to, personally.
Yeah, I think it's very, like you mentioned, very interesting that Jon Moxley's here. We've been saying for weeks now we think he's winning the title. I think after the main event, he's going to come out and challenge, and the match for Chicago will officially be a title match, and he's going to end up winning the title, and this will be the start of this long-form story to get Umino to the Dome in the main event to finally kind of defeat his mentor, his dad, and kind of move on to that next level of trying to be the ace of New Japan.
I think my only frustration with that is that we've had this match announced. Moxley versus Naito was was the first, if not one of the first matches announced for Windy City Riot. So it always kind of feels weird that they announce a match like that while someone could potentially become the champion, and then it's dangling right in front of this match that we have coming up in the main event of this program. Not that I don't think that Yoda could do it. But at the same time, I'm just like, it kind of takes a little bit of the wind out of the sails for the main event for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. But the flip side and the complaint people always have is they do big shows in the future in a very close proximity to other big shows, and they don't announce anything.
Yeah.
And then it's like, we're a week out, and then it's like, oh, by the way, Naito's fighting Jon Moxley next week. And you're like, wait, it's too late to get tickets to go to Chicago. I can't fucking make that. So that's the other argument against it. My thinking up until recently had always been, well, Naito could lose the title. And if they have another major match announced with somebody that's in this match, then maybe that could become the new title match, and maybe there are multiple branching options, but it's pretty clear, that's probably not the way we're going with this.
Yeah.
Because I think that Tsuji's booked for the Taiwan show. So unless he's winning the title and they really want to make a strong play having the new IWGP World Heavyweight Champion in Taiwan, which, you know, maybe that's the case, but he doesn't have a big match announced for that show. It just feels like with Jon Moxley there that we're heading towards that match.
Yeah. A question here from Phenomenal1615. Do you think that Ren, Narita, and Jack Perry being in similar roles in House of Torture, young rising stars getting a push, could lead to a shakeup in the house down the road?
I think that we could easily run into a situation where Jack Perry goes back to America and it is never, ever, ever acknowledged ever again that he was ever part of the House of Torture, except for like the one time a year when they do like a crossover Forbidden Door show. And it's like, hey, we're in a group together. Remember that? Yeah.
Very much like Chaos in AEW.
Yeah, exactly like that. Or like Chaos in any number of defunct members that have been part of that group over the last
15 plus years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's the, again, Bullet Club needs to sort out who's in Bullet Club and who isn't in Bullet Club. And if it leads to a shakeup in the sense that Perry does his time in New Japan and then goes back to the States and goes back to AEW or goes elsewhere, that's fine. I just feel like House of Torture is getting too big at this point to make it interesting for me. Not that it was very much interesting to begin with for the last couple of years anyway, but I just don't know what the end game is. If it's going to be the right, like what they're going to focus on with both of them. Is the rivalry going to be with Umino, other people in that same generation, or is it going to be infighting amongst House of Torture? Like, I don't know what the direction for it is just yet.
Yeah, I don't know. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of possibilities that could happen.
No, and I don't care.
Don't care.
But yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen with Jack Perry, but I don't know if it's gonna be any shakeup. I feel like this is probably gonna be what he's gonna be doing until he goes back to AEW.
As a major research institution, Arizona State University offers the most online bachelor's degree programs, along with world-class faculty and dedicated support. Discover why ASU is ranked #1 in innovation for 9 consecutive years. Tap to learn more.
Which you have a similar question here from Kenton. Says, my question is, do you think Jack Perry will stay in NJPW for at least the year, or do you see him returning to AEW by the summer? If he stays in NJPW, what other storylines could you see working for him in the future?
You know, last week I had some thoughts about Jack Perry in New Japan, and I said I was going to get back to him, and then I realized after we got off there, I was like, I never really got back around to talking about it. So, you know, the whole thing with Jack Perry is like, in AEW, there was quite a few things that were given to him to sort of set him up for success, whether that was his connection to his famous father, beautiful locks of hair, the Jungle Boy gimmick, him and Luchasaurus, like they had that whole hot white meat baby face thing. They got the Baltimore theme song that got over with the crowd. So there's just a lot there sort of wrapped up in that package. Plus he was, you know, given the feud with Christian, which helped really propel him. And a lot of his moveset was high flying and very crowd pleasing. Then when they shifted him to heel, there was a lot of mic work. There was a lot of character work, and there was a lot of like legends that he was fighting that worked, you know, in his favor, as well as the feud with Hook. Bringing him to Japan, I don't think that he's been set up for success in a lot of different ways, because you've really kind of stripped that character of all the things that made him work in North America. And then he's sort of like on a learning excursion, and he's being told to go work with Japanese wrestlers in the Japanese style, a style that he's never worked before in a country he's never been to before, defunct and devoid of all of the things that made his character work and excel in a North American product environment. And then kind of just thrown in as he's sort of, to me, like just one of the thugs of House of Torture. Like he's just another nameless body that's there. And like, sure, he got the big win over Umino, but like he didn't, I don't know. It didn't seem to me like he was getting super heat, that the crowd was really into it, or that it was something that was connecting or working. The one good thing you can point to in the entirety of his run are his backstage promos. And really, they only work on one level, and that's for the AEW audience and the anti-punk crowd and the people that are really into the elite storylines that are going on right now with Nick and Matt, because it's like, oh, he's like very insidery and he's touching base on, the punk shit and everything like that. But the Japanese audience isn't like necessarily connecting with his backstage comments. It's not translating to the screen. And they're putting him out there in Chicago. Chicago is not going to love Jungle Boy after everything that happened with him and Punk and all that. Like, I just don't think that they haven't in the midst of this to really set him up for any sort of success. The way he's wrestling, the way he looks, the way he, the lack of ability to really form a character. I thought that they were going in a good direction when they did the quote unquote scapegoat character initially when he first came out, but I feel like the House of Torture alignment has not really done anything except for make him take a step back as a star and as a character, and now he's just a guy.
I feel like if he were to have gone the Bullet Club route, yeah, I know he came in at a time where the War Dogs were embroiled with everything going on with Osprey and co. But he could have easily, especially now that we were talking about who could fill a void. If Drilla Maloney goes heavyweight to fill up the Alex Coughlin vacancy, he could easily slot into the War Dogs, and I feel like he would be a little more comfortable, largely because he'd be around a lot of guys who are more familiar with that could better bridge the gap between the Japanese wrestling style and how things are done in America. Not that I'm saying, because I love the guys at House of Torture as they've had experiences working or living in America and working in promotions, but I do feel like there is probably a language barrier that he has to contend with, and since they tend to travel separate from the rest of the, they don't necessarily travel all Bullet Club together all the time, that I feel like he could possibly, if he were to be paired with, I hate to put it, the other foreign white boys, he might be better set up for success in that route. But again, while he does wrestle heavyweight, he could be someone you throw into, if you were to talk about next moves for him, he could easily go into Super Juniors. And do very well. Not saying let him win the whole thing, but he could make it interesting because of the way he tends to wrestle when he actually wrestles.
With Bullet Club, there's a cachet, there's a history, there's an aesthetic there that he would fit into a lot better than he did with House of Torture, but someone made the call that he needs to be in House of Torture.
I feel like they were trying to make I feel like putting him in House of Torture was a way to kind of appeal to the foreign fans. They're like, no, like foreigners can also be in House of Torture. But the thing was that what I liked about House of Torture was that it was all the Japanese guys kind of like departing from Bullet Club and making Bullet Club, again, minus Kenta, who lives here in Orlando, basically, and Ishimori, but to a lesser extent, like an all foreign. It felt foreign again.
Well, he's their Yujiro,
but he can wrestle better than Yujiro.
Yeah, but he is their Yujiro. He's their one corner.
Yeah, I think had he been a part of just Bullet Club, the regular Bullet Club, also there's history there. Also the Young Bucks, like you can make the connection there. Like he's doing what they did to kind of get back with them and
California Clique.
Yeah, and we talk about Chase and Kenta and Ishimori kind of being aimless. Like he could have been like the sub leader for that group and kind of did that more kind of Bullet Club side of things.
Why can't he have goons?
Right, you started Perry Club. Jungle Club.
The tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist in my heart really does wonder if Dave didn't get that story wrong about the punishment, because he was recently on that podcast and he said that him and Tony Khan didn't talk for months and months and months after the whole incident. And I'm like, maybe Tony placed the call. He's like, put him in House of Torture. He'll never get over that way.
Well, yeah, there's been a lot of back and forth in the last week of he said, she said, he did this, he didn't do this, and he actually.
There's even more now with the Punk audio that came out today.
Right, the Punk interview today, and the whole Real Glass thing, and did Jack Perry apologize? He didn't apologize. He didn't hear from TK, suspended, not suspended. There's a whole lot of like rumors, and clearly Jack Perry gave some like kayfabe comments to Brian Alvarez to be, and so there's a lot of stuff going on with him, and I do think this is going to be like maybe his landing spot for the year until they finally bring him back to AEW.
I'll tell you the truth. It's kind of fun to speculate on all this because it is a subject of interest, but I've never seen anything in Jack Perry in terms of like true star potential. I think that there's a glass ceiling, and I think he's already hit it. And I've been saying this for a long time on this show, and I don't see him being a good fit in New Japan overall. So I don't think that this is a long-term placement for him.
Would you say a real glass ceiling?
Wow.
Yeah, it's real. That glass
Jeremy.
I know what you're doing there, Jeremy, but I think that this glass ceiling is really real. In fact, like so real that it's got spray paint on it and it says upper mid card, and he will never break through that ceiling because I don't think he has the look, style, or charisma to connect with an audience to get to. He's not a main event guy, which there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and for like in that same vein, for me, I liked him better as a babyface because he has that like kind of that Bryan Danielson or Daniel Bryan WWE era like underdog feel to him because he's more petite compared to a lot of his the people he wrestles with, but he can still wrestle against much taller and much heavier guys. But yeah, I like that he's getting the experience because I feel like wrestlers that invest time in honing their craft is a very good thing. But at the same time, it's just like, I don't know if this character is necessarily the right direction for him because it's not resonating with me.
Because he's not Brian Pillman circa 1996. That's why.
Yeah.
Like that's what the gimmick is tailor made for. They need, if Gabe Kidd was the guy that got kicked out and was doing this gimmick, it'd be the hottest thing in wrestling right now because you'd believe it and you'd be like, oh my God, this guy's fucking insane. But
yeah,
it's Jack Perry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, following that, the semi-main event of the evening will be for the Never Openweight title. The champion Evil will defend against the Rampage Dragon Shingo Takagi.
It's coming home. Shingo is bringing that belt home because he took 2 big losses in 2 tournaments back to back from this dude. And I don't care how much shenanigans you throw in. I don't care how many ref bumps there. I don't care how many run-ins there will be. Turn off the lights, chop this guy in the gonads, whatever you got to do. It doesn't matter because Shingo is going to walk out of Sakura Genesis as the new Never champion. And the only real question I have is, what will the new Never title look like? Are they going to clean up the old belt, get some paint cleaner and just clean it up? Or will we be seeing the debut of a new design, which is what I hope?
I feel like that belt's due for a remake. Finley broke the last one. Evil spray painted this one. And they've had those designs for quite some time. So I think a new belt is probably in the pipeline for it, which again, Shingo gets tasked with shouldering another new design belt, but he's
got a great track record.
He's got a great track record with it, and he's a safe pick because you can guarantee great matches out of him.
Yep.
Yeah, I definitely want Shingo to get the title back here, and hopefully somebody cool will challenge him for Chicago, or I guess maybe, I don't know if he's going to be in Chicago or the Taiwan show. But yeah, I think Shingo back with the Never title would be a great thing for that title, be a great thing for New Japan cards. And yeah, it's time, as Shingo says.
Shingo, time.
How do you actually pronounce what he says? Because it sounds like he's saying like stop.
Well, he's saying Kita, kita, which means it means it's the verb to come, as in time has arrived, the time has come. But he just says kita. I'm trying to tiptoe around this grammar explanation as delicately as I can, as your Discord daddy. But basically, yeah, him saying that the time has arrived. He just says it in rapid fire succession.
Well, when he does it, I say stack, stack, stack.
Well, he kind of like says it so fast that it kind of just like bleeds all together. But yeah,
I just think he's saying stack, so I'm just like stack, stack, stack.
Japanese, they love their onomatopoeia, and so the fact that he can say it like that, it really appeals to people, especially when he points, does the breaks the fourth wall and points at the camera, is like, and people are like, the time has arrived.
I just signed up for a library card, and they've got a language thing. I think it's called Mango or something. I'm going to try and learn some Japanese.
Oh, heck yeah.
Nice.
I love that for you.
Well, either that or maybe Mexican. I'm Mexican, so maybe I'll try to learn some Spanish.
Some Espanol.
It'd just be nice
for the lucha.
Yeah, it'd be nice if I like watch Arena Mexico and like know what they were saying. It'd be sick.
But with all the like the vuvuzelas and all the ongoings in the audience, I don't know if you'd be able to hear anything anyway.
So one little more match here, the main event for
just one little match.
Yeah, just a little match, no big deal.
No big deal.
For the IWGP World Heavyweight title, the champion Tetsuya Naito will defend against the Gene Blast Yota Tsuji.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be incredible.
Yes. See, I see. I think so. It's one of those matches where, again, it all depends on where Naito is in his career. If he's actually, because he keeps saying that he's gonna retire soon. He's gonna start winding down, and his knee, good old Destino and Tranquilo. His knees are kind of on the outs, much like Tanahashi's knees. Would I love to see a title change? Yes, but I don't think they could afford to keep Yota out of the G1 with as young as he is.
What do you mean keep him out of the G1?
Well, depending on the year, I guess. I mean, unless you, I guess, if you're Kazuchika Okada, you can choose to sit out on the G1 as the world heavyweight champion. But Sonata had to work it.
Yeah,
because like depending on the year, sometimes the G1 champion, because they're they tend to be the one who has to fight the winner of the G1 at the Tokyo Dome. They sometimes sit out. Am I not correct in that? Or
no, I don't think there's ever been a G1 where the champion wasn't in it. I could be wrong.
I feel like Okada. There was a year where Okada sat out on it.
Possibly.
Since we've been doing it, since we've been recording this, I feel like the champion's always been in it.
But I think it would be a bit of a stretch to even assume that hypothetically, if Tsuji won the title, that he would even carry it all the way to like the G1, because typically Gato likes to have those first time champions have short title reigns, like 1 or 2 months. And
he'd lose it at Dominion, but he'd get one defense in.
Could lose it at Forbidden Door. There's a couple big shows coming up. So
have they announced Forbidden Door for the this year?
They haven't announced it, but the rumor is that they're going to do it at Arthur Ashe.
Okay.
And there will also be CMLL and Stardom and potentially even Rev Pro involvement with the show as well.
That's the scuttlebutt, that they're going to have all those different groups involved in it. And that's another thing too, is they've got a big show coming up in California, and the champion is supposed to be on that show. And so either we're putting a lot of faith in Tsuji, thinking he's going to be headlining a lot of pretty big shows and expected to draw so soon into the early part of his career, especially even internationally, or Naito's retaining and we're doing the big money match between him and John Moxley just 1 week later in Chicago. And I think that's where we're going. But Naito and Tsuji, they've got history. Naito was the guy that Tsuji chased all throughout his young lion phase, and they finally squared off just before he went on his excursion. There's a lot of influence from Naito in Tsuji. his gimmick and kind of his attitude and style, and him going to Mexico, everything like that. And I'm very much looking forward to what the story arc is going to be, given the outcome, regardless of which guy wins, and how that sort of affects LIJ going forward.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very pivotal match for Tsuji. Also, he's already had a great world title main event, but I think the important thing here, compared to his peers, we saw when Umino came back and had that match with Naito, it wasn't a great match, and I think that match let a lot of people down. And so I think if Tsuji could kind of outperform Umino and have a great match with Naito, I think that will help kind of inch Tsuji ahead of Umino in kind of this battle for who is the actual ace of New Japan.
Sorry, I was just checking my notes on my Okada thing. I have to apologize. I think it was him choosing not to defend his losses in the G1.
Yeah, he did choose that.
That's what I was thinking. Pardon my burnout. I'm very tired right now. But yeah, with Tsuji, it's like I want to hope beyond hope that they're ready to pull the trigger on him. But yeah, you made some very good points about the fact that there are a lot of big shows coming up this summer, and I don't know if they would forsake having old reliable and Naito to just be the guy over the summer.
Yeah, I mean, I think the signs are all kind of there for Jon Moxley. I mean, he's here on this card. He can come out and challenge Naito. The match is already announced for Chicago. They announced Resurgence. They already announced that the world champion is going to be defending there. It'll be probably a lot easier to have Mox defend in the U.S. And then you got Dominion. You got Forbidden Door. Like, there's all these big shows that I think you can use Mox. And Moxley hasn't really been doing anything on AEW TV. He was just in Arena Mexico last Friday, part of the whole Blue Panther feud with Bryan Danielson. So he's kind of off on just kind of doing random stuff right now.
And they had that tag title tournament, and just prior to the tournament, him and Claudio had beaten FTR on pay-per-view. So you would have assumed that they would have been a lock to be a number one seed in that tournament, and they're not even in it whatsoever.
Right. I think they're ranked number 3, and they weren't in the tournament at all.
Right, which is kind of a dead giveaway that, like, he's going to be preoccupied with something else other than chasing the tag team titles. And I think that him being in this match in Chicago, a lot of people are overlooking it, not realizing, like, yeah, it's pretty pivotal. Like, he very likely, I think, is going to win the IWGP World title.
Yeah.
Do you think AEW would be able to give him up, though? Like, to loop back to the G1, do you think they'd be able to give him up for a month or month and a half for the G1?
I think they would, because of the influx of talent that they took from New Japan recently.
Yeah, I always worry because I just always go back to remembering when he got sick during the last time was it the last time he was in the G1 that he got sick?
It wasn't even sick. It was he got injured and he was hurt. And that's the concern I have. And I think the concern Tony Khan would have is, like, how protected would he need to be? But again, are they going back to two block format? If they're doing the 4-block format, you could probably, that's a lot less strenuous.
Put him in Umino's block. Put him in the young boy block where the young boys have to eat all the pins.
Yeah, so I guess it just depends. And then the other thing too is, who knows? He could even win the title and drop it prior to the G1 and just have a short reign. Maybe even drop it back to Naito in short succession. That's possible. Do 2 big money matches. It's hard to really predict this whole thing out long term, but I think it's very clear that this match is going to be great, but I don't think that night is Tsuji's night.
Yeah, which will be, I know a lot of fans will be upset about that, but like I was saying before, I think it's all about Tsuji having a great performance, having a better performance than Umino did against Naito in the past, and just really establishing himself as a main eventer. And this will be a second world title match, and if you can have a second great world title match, I think that will be great things for him and should set him up for a good G1.
Would you what title would you pivot Tsuji towards in the intermediary then, if any?
I would put him to the global championship.
Yeah, there's something about, a nice long-haired man in red pants, a white strap around his waist. Yeah, it's very reminiscent.
Well, speaking of, the old white strap and Nakamura, Tsuji has been making a lot of comments about wanting to bring back the Intercontinental title to have a retirement for it against Nakamura. He wants to bring back the V4 and give it the proper treatment. And that's another sign there he's not winning, because he's talking about bringing back the Intercontinental and the V4 and fighting Nakamura.
Anytime anyone starts saying they're going to reinstate the old title belt and do this and that, that's how you know they're not winning. Because
unless you're Okada. Okada's the only one who can mention that belt and be able to get away with it.
Yeah, I just it is interesting, but that is part of the story, is where he's like, I'm not as hamstrung by obligations. I could actually do that. Whereas Naito can say he wants to do it, but he isn't in a position where he could actually institute splitting the title back up and retiring the IC belt, bringing back the V4. But I'm almost at the point where I wish they would stop talking about it, because they're not going to do it. And
yeah, same.
It's devaluing the title that we've been sitting around watching for the past several years. And it's like, if you didn't want to do it in the first place, you shouldn't have done it. Now you did it. We should learn to live with it. I got to see all these fans online always talking about bringing back the V4. It's like, dude, they're not doing it. Like, just like, let's stop.
Yeah, and
we need to learn acceptance as a people. It's time to go through our stages of grief and learn acceptance.
The global champion, the global, not Noah's GHC championship, the New Japan IWGP GHC championship. That one, it's growing on me because it looks similar to the IC title, and I think that's as close as we're going to get to getting the IC title back, is that global championship, and I'm fine with it. I've come to terms with it.
My hot take, I think the global title is one of the best designed New Japan belts ever in history. I think it looks better than the IC belt did.
I like it better than the world title.
I like it better than their current world title as well.
Yeah, I think it looks great. And if they were going to bring back the IC, yeah, they would have done it with this whole Finley Moxley Ospreay storyline. They wouldn't have brought the global title in to then bring back the IC and bring the V4. So.
Well, you say that, but they just do stuff. You just never know.
Also true.
Yeah. So we have a few questions here. Def Triangle 720 says, do you think we'll get a debut or a return at Sakura Genesis?
Possibly, but I don't know who. I'm not anticipating anybody in particular, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was a video package from like Mustafa Ali just in relation to his match coming up.
Yeah.
If I may, over the weekend, I believe, one Katsuhiko Nakajima has lost the All Japan Triple Crown Championship to young Yuma Anzai. I could see him strolling in at Sakura Genesis. I don't think there's anybody that's on the shelf right now or out on excursion that would be ready to come back, but I could see him making the move to come to New Japan, because he apparently very clearly said that he's not going back to Noah. So let him challenge somebody, make it interesting.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I also saw that there is a potential like loser leaves Noah match between Kano and what's wrong with
Kiyomiya
and Kiyomiya.
I mean, if Kiyomiya, because they do Kiyomiya so dirty in Noah. I could easily, they can't afford to lose Keno. He's too wildly popular, and he's always booked pretty strongly. I could see them especially with him tagging with Ryohei Oiwa. I could see him being the one to be sent packing and then show up in New Japan as well.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm kind of wondering on that. Like, could we be living in a world here in the near future where like Kiyomiya and Nakajima are both like New Japan staples?
We could be, yeah.
Would have liked that before Okada left, but it is what it is.
Next question here from Less Commission 7252. What is one match you guys particularly think of when you think of Sakura Genesis? I think of Zack versus Okada 2018. New Japan could have went the route of having their first Gaijin champion since AJ in 2015, and could have had him beating Tanahashi and Okada back to back just like Jay White did a couple months later in the G1.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily agree with them having gone that route at the time. Just because we would have lost the Okada legendary title reign, but you know, Okada's gone, so maybe there's a bit of soreness there. I mean, the match I always think of when I think of Sakura Genesis is a very simple answer, and it's the big one, and that's going to be Shibata Okada, the greatest match that ever occurred on that date in that building.
Yeah, I agree. That's the number one thing I think about. That headbutt heard around the world.
I think that match happened right before I started watching New Japan. So for me, I always associate the Sakura Genesis because it tends to be the start of the new year, but it also starts to set up the road for Best of Super Juniors. I always associate it with the Super Junior matches, whether it's the tag match or the junior title defense, because that always seems to be the launching point where they start announcing people who are going to be in the tournament, and they start, putting all those ducks in a row. But yeah, I've seen the Okada Shibata match. I think it's great. I wish I could have been involved in the fandom at that time to have experienced it live, despite how disturbing it was. Because I feel like I missed out on a certain part of history, and watching it like afterwards, it doesn't have the same effect as watching how it happened in real time. Even though I believe that's also the same show where Shibata announced that he was, I think that was the same venue where he did his famous "I'm alive, that's all" spiel before taking over the LA Dojo. I don't know if it was that show or it was just that venue.
I think that would have been
like
later G1 that he came back.
Yeah,
okay.
He came back the first.
But was it at that venue or is it a different venue I'm thinking of?
Probably was that same venue.
Okay.
I'm the worst with venues.
2018 also had a great junior title match against Will against a person that we can't talk about anymore. But yeah, that was a really great junior title match.
Ooh.
See, now I have to go over to Cage Match and find out what you're talking about, because I think I know who you're talking about, but I don't want to say
the man who wears a plague mask.
Oh yeah, okay. That's who I thought you were talking about. Yeah.
We can talk about him. We can talk all about everything he's done too. We could say it. Put his name to it.
Put his name on it.
Yeah. That's why we can't have nice things.
Rambo and Sandpig asks, do you think having Sakura Genesis, Windy City Riot, and Wrestling World all within 8 days of each other is too ambitious given the state of the current roster? Or do the two foreign shows rely enough on non-core talent to paper over that issue?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that they're splitting the rosters, and they've done a good enough job advertising these other foreign shows in advance to... I don't know what the tickets look like for the Taiwan show, so I couldn't tell you if that's successful right now or not. I guess time will tell. But we already know that the US show is going to be very, very, very successful for them in this market at this time. So I think that they're doing a good job. And like he said, utilizing talent from outside as well in those markets I think that's a winning formula right now.
I think if this was pre-pandemic New Japan touring, where they were bringing the entire roster to like multiple shows in multiple cities, yes. But because since the pandemic, they've been more judicious about how many people they bring from Japan and how many local talent they incorporate, especially with the New Japan Strong brand. I do think it'll be, especially in Taiwan, I think it'll be a great opportunity to learn more about that particular part of the wrestling scene, because it's not one that we ever really hear about involved with New Japan, because I think it's one of their newest partners for their Asia expansion plans for the upcoming couple of years. But do I miss the days of seeing the entire New Japan roster have a show in the United States? Yes. It's largely why I don't travel to shows anymore, because I don't feel right paying what we pay for it to be a fraction of the talent that I want to see. But I have very niche preferences of who I want to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a rough schedule for some guys, but I think overall, there's enough roster where they're splitting it. Where I think it'll end up being fine. And I mean, they're bringing in Stardom for both shows. I think because Starlight Kid is wrestling somebody on the Taiwan show.
Hanako. She's wrestling Hanako on the Taiwan show, and then Azumi and Mina Shirakawa are scheduled for Windy City Riot, but they have not announced their opponents yet. But since Stephanie Vaquer is the women's champion, one or both of them will probably challenge Vaquer.
Yeah, so there'll be a lot of like Americans they'll use on Windy City Riot, and maybe they'll incorporate some Taiwan talent on that show, and then they're using Stardom as well. So I think they're kind of tapping into their resources to help fill those cards out and not burn out the whole roster.
Nice. So that is going to do it for our review. Let's jump into the news here. So a couple of quick items. Windy City Riot will be available on pay-per-view on new NJPW World for $19.99. So if you want to watch that live, that's going to be your source to go to. Altogether was made official for Budokan Hall May 6th. The event is going to take place with cooperation from New Japan Pro Wrestling Noah, DDT, Dragon Gate, Big Japan, and Stardom. And for those unable to attend in the Nippon Budokan, they'll be available to watch the show on a BEMA pay-per-view in English and Japanese. Additionally, the second UJPW event has also been made official for June 15th in the Hokai Kita Yell in Sapporo. We'll see the next card from that group, and they'll be focused on member promotions unable to participate on May 6th. The following matches have been announced for the first show. So we've got Umino, Kiyomiya, and Yuki Ueno teaming up to take on Yuya Uemura, Konosuke Takeshita, and Shun Skywalkers. That's going to be a high-flying, young up-and-coming stars sort of match. The other match that's been announced is Tomohiro Ishii and Daisuke Sekimoto taking on Jeff Cobb and Masa Kitamiya. So the real Beef Boy match. And finally, the last match that they have announced is President Hiroshi Tanahashi teaming up with President Sanshiro Takagi with President Naomichi Marufuji to take on House of Torturers, Evil, Ren Narita, and Yujiro. So I believe that is scheduled to be the main event, and I can't believe Yujiro Takahashi is going to be main eventing the show, but that seems to be the world that we're living in right now. Aside from that, Odeotai Starlight Kid will take on Hanako of E-Nexus V at Wrestling World 2024 in Taiwan, as we mentioned earlier. Kiyomiya's Noah farewell match will be on 4/11 against Kano. I don't know if this is actually a farewell match from the company. I saw that the language that was used there was that it's a farewell for the feud between them, provided on whether or not he wins or loses. But I don't want to like start too many rumors, but it could be like a translation sort of thing. But I don't know if that means he's leaving Noah or not.
I was going to say, where did you find that? And I can take a look at it.
We shared a post of it from Hisami, and they usually do a really good job of.
Oh, Hisami, yeah, they are a fantastic resource, especially in the Noah fandom for translations.
But the translation says, Kato Kiyomiya says this will be his farewell match between himself and Kano. If Kiyomiya wins, he'll leave Kano alone. Kano says that if Kano wins, they'll be together forever and called this day the day of our love will bloom. So it might just have to do with them never facing one another again, or maybe it is some sort of send off for Kiyomiya and we're just not privy to the contract status. I don't know. But I think it is one to kind of keep our eyes on just in case.
Yeah,
they always have really good matchups. So, I mean, as much as I would love to have them go from like enemies to lovers bromance situation, if it's Kiyomiya's time to leave the company and do other things.
Well, normally
if they're not utilizing him, then
I used to never really advocate for bigger stars from smaller groups to come here, but we're desperate right now.
He had a good run in the G1 last year. I feel like if they need I hate to say it, a pre-made star who could slot in above someone like Umino or Uemura at this point, you could bring Kiyomiya in, easily throw him in. You could throw him in with Finley in the global championship level, no problem.
We did have a comment here from SadGoal8860 says, what if Kiyomiya jumped ship to New Japan and took over Chaos? And my answer to that is what if that happened? Tokyo Sports reported Katsuhiko Nakajima will not wrestle anymore in All Japan and will not rejoin Noah. Death Triangle 720 asked, do you think New Japan takes a gamble and tries to secure Nakajima?
I mean, if I were them, I would.
I personally want Desperado to take over Chaos because they need someone who has the wild popularity and has their what together. But I could see if New Japan has the deep wallets and they want to start, especially with Noah, having Julia show up at their first show of the new fiscal year today. Who knows what that means for the recent departures from Stardom, that they're going to want to try to keep people's attention. I could see them try to make a play for both of these guys easily because there's nothing left for Kiyomiya to do in Noah. He was their world champion at 24. So, and he's like 26 or 27 at this point. And Nakajima says he's not going back. So unless they're going to start working freelance or go to the United States, why not?
Right.
I think they could both make the G1 so interesting.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
First time ever, Daniel Makabe will be facing off against Zack Sabre Jr. at Prestige Roseland 8 on April 14th. And for those that don't know, Daniel Makabe, one of my favorite independent stars, is currently in the middle of a retirement tour. It is wrestling, so you never say never, but he is planning to stop active performing sometime this year. So this is sort of like a dream match between two of the best technical wrestlers in the world. So definitely want to check that one out. And then other Zach match that's been announced. We've mentioned it on the show, but it's coming up this coming week. DDT's tag team match with Yuki Ueno and Mao taking on Zack Sabre Jr. and Chris Brooks. That will take place on April 7th. Start time 11:30. So that is going to do it for the news. We got a few questions here, and then we're going to get out of here.
Yep. So NJPW fan 13 says, another question is, with the Never Openweight 6-man tag team champion tournament happening at the Taiwan show, which teams would you like to see in that match, and who do you think will benefit from winning the Never 6-man tag team championships?
My ideal pick would be like a Team DK team.
Do Nichols Hayes Eagles, Nichols Hayes Fujita?
Something. You could pretty much throw any of them together. I wouldn't care if it was Eagles,
Tito, Fujita,
Tito and Fujita, like whoever. I don't care, whoever they got. But yeah, I love that group, and I think that they need some gold. So let's do those guys.
I'm going to go with the old reliable with their monster 1-year run of the Never 6-man. Ishii, Goto, and Yoshihashi.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that would rock.
Guaranteed fan favorites and crowd pleasers in the Never 6-man division.
I feel like United Empire needs a bone right now. There's a lot of stuff you can do there. You can do Cobb, catch Tutu. You can do Cobb, Ocon, and Newman. You can do Newman, catch Tutu. Ocon, catch Tutu.
Gold's not going to fix that problem. They need leadership is what they need.
Let's see. Next question here from Cody Dr. Larry. It says, with All Japan crowning Onsai, don't you think New Japan should show them up?
No, because I don't care about what happens in All Japan.
That's why I think Nakajima is going into New Japan, or they are going to make a massive play for him.
You ever see that meme with Don Draper when he's getting in the elevator and the copyright? I forget the kid, but he's like, "I feel sorry for you." And Don Draper looks at me, he's like, "I don't think about you at all." That's my relationship with All Japan. Like, I don't really care.
And then also, it's not really a question. He says, I say we consolidate the tag belts so we can have one cohesive division.
Which ones? Which tag belts? All three of them? All four of them?
I think that's what he means. All three of them. Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't be the first person or the last to have posited that possibility.
I would say the open weight champion, the New Japan strong belts. We don't with the volume of belts we have, unless you're going to make it a regular touring brand like they used to do. Mm-hmm. I don't feel there's a purpose for them anymore. So I would merge New Japan open weight and the never open weight. I would merge the IWGP women's and the strong women's championships, and I would put the IWGP tags and the open weight tags.
I agree. I think the junior titles, even I understand why people want to merge them, but they do have a long history.
That's true.
And it's an opportunity for much smaller guys in the roster that don't really get to do anything else because they don't let them fight open weight. Dagnabbit.
Next question here from Reddit user Bungholio the Mighty. Was there a point back in the day where the powers that be, creative or President Ace, Tanahashi himself wanted to become a heel during his in-ring career?
Tanahashi worked heel lots of times for long stretches. Yeah. I mean, I can't give you the whole rundown of the time frames because a lot of it is kind of during the Dark Ages or coming out of the Dark Ages, but like Tanahashi for years, and people don't seem to really remember this because so much of the Western fan base really came into their fandom around 2015. They don't seem to know that like Tanahashi wasn't always accepted as the ace. It was like a very long, arduous up and down kind of battle to gain that acceptance. And he worked cocky heel for a lot of stretches in his career. Go back and read his what's it called? Aces High, his series that he has on the website, and you could probably find the time frames when he was working heel. He'll talk about it, but we've even seen him bring out a little bit of that persona in different matches in modern times. And I remember when he went to in 2015, he had to do those matches in DDT that he did not want to fucking do. And he just like healed it up and just shitted all over Hiroshima. And like he sunned Hiroshima so bad that he had to go back and do a PowerPoint presentation and apologize publicly to the company for how badly he had treated Hiroshima in their match. And heel Tanahashi is one of my favorite things in the world. And if you've never seen a heel Tanahashi match, go out of your way and like do some digging, because just think about how heelish he is as a babyface. When like I made this joke last week, but it's just true. Like he announces himself. He says, "It is I, the once in a lifetime, once in a thousand talent, Hiroshi Tanahashi." Like this is heel talk. This is not how a regular good guy talks.
Yes, I do love his confidence, but at the same time, there are times where grumpy old man Tanahashi comes out, very much like grumpy Okada did before he left. I like it when he puts the black hat on and tries to be the bad guy, but I would be curious to go back and watch when he was actually proper heel Tanahashi. I don't think I would want to see it now because he's president, because that feels too WWE-esque. I'm fine with him being a plucky New Japan dad who, occasionally bear palm somebody across the face. But
even in 2014, during the feud with Okada, once it became clear that Okada was surpassing him, he went against his nature and delved into cheating tactics and was feigning injuries that weren't real. And he was using cheating tactics to try and gain an edge against a surging Okada, because he had at that point already shown that he didn't have the goods just from a pure technical standpoint to keep pace with Okada any longer.
Yeah, I think
so. We've seen him do that stuff.
Yeah, and it's great. I love when Tanahashi goes to that place and he's a heel in the match up there. It's he's so good. He's a guy that kind of captures a room, and he can do it all. He can be a face, he can be a heel, he can make you laugh, make you cry. He's the ace. Next question from Rainbow Slam Pig.
Can't run anymore though.
Well, he's 47, and again, his knees are being held together with love and energy at this point.
Rambo says, with Nakajima dropping the NJPW Triple Crown, do you see him as a possible signing for NJPW later this year? I believe he is still a freelancer. Is that correct?
We've kind of covered that already.
Yeah. Discord Daddy says, what do you believe are the top 3 angles happening in NJPW right now?
Angles? I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe he means like the top feuds or programs.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, I think that the LIJ sort of intrigue what's going on there is, with Suji trying to, kind of usurp a little bit of or reshape things a little bit there. That's very, very interesting. I don't know. I guess the other ones that you'd have to point to most likely would be what's going on with House of Torture and then what's going on with like Show and Yo and the junior title. I guess those are like the major programs.
And the is there not a leader of the United Empire?
That would be like
because some people think there aren't, but TJP is convinced that he needs to be the guy, and they're like, but that wasn't the point of us in the beginning. So
last week I likened that to letting your little brother play video games with you, but you didn't plug in the controllers. They just think they're playing.
We just dropped a hot program with Okan and Tangaloa.
Yeah.
Would you say that's one of the top 3 angles in the company happening right now, Jeremy?
Well, it's over now because they had the match, but it was.
And it is funny. Nick Nemeth is the global champion. We got Sakura Genesis, and there's no Nick Nemeth. We don't have a match coming up. Like, we don't know what's going on with that.
Well, he was fighting Ishii at Windy City Riot, but it's non-title because he insists on it being Tanahashi as his first defense.
Yeah, he was supposed.
Isn't that the story right now?
Yeah, he's supposed to defend against Tanahashi at Sakura Genesis. But then when Tanahashi being injured, that match got canceled, and then he challenged Ishii, and that's going to be a non-title match.
Yeah, none of that like draws money. That's just
that is correct.
Yeah.
I mean, he's drawing money because he's collecting a paycheck as champion, but
I doubt it. It's probably a per date deal.
He's getting paid next Friday when he shows up to work. So
yep.
Hopefully Ishii beats him because it's non-title.
That would be awesome.
That'd be so funny.
I want Ishii to demand a title match, but that's just me.
Ishii's gonna be like, I want this IC title. No, that's a global. What?
It has a white strap. I want that one. That's a Wonder of Stardom championship, sir. You can't have that one.
Let's Commission 7252 says The Rock claims to be the final boss. But when you guys think of final boss, who comes to mind? Guys that come to mind is Okada, Hogan in the late 80s, Triple H during his reign of terror in 03, and Vince.
In New Japan, I think of Vader. I think of Okada. I think of Inoki.
Mm-hmm.
Andre.
Stan Hansen.
I wouldn't say Stan. Not at least not in New Japan. Maybe in All Japan. But those are kind of the guys I would think of. Hashimoto. In his heyday.
Someone who actually uses the title final boss, Mako Satomura. But that's just me. I've seen her wrestle live. She could be a final boss for anyone.
Yeah, she's awesome. His next question: what do you guys miss about New Japan's product before the pandemic? He says, I miss the replays that make the crowd go awe once they look closer at the previous move.
I honestly liked New Japan World before they've done this renovation on it. Because as a Mac user, and I've talked about this over at Post, is that as a Mac user, their interfaces aren't compatible for Mac computers. Like I can play it, but I can't cast it onto using AirPlay or anything like that. And I've had it. I miss having international shows that have the entire roster on it, because that's been very much a thing. And I miss Roppongi 3K being shiny happy boys with Rocky Romero.
I don't like the New Japan World. There's just too many issues with the interface and that I just really don't like.
I can't find anything on it.
That the search functionality is like shit, but even just playing stuff is like navigating while you're trying to like change the speed or change the language, or like you turn on, or every single video being cut up into single individual videos. And then you're like trying to gauge, like, how long is this video? Like, is it 4 minutes or is it 40 minutes? I can't tell. I don't know. I just hate it. But I miss trophies. Remember when people used to win, they get trophies?
Mm-hmm. Big checks. Yeah.
I miss that.
A year's supply of stuff.
Yeah.
I miss the roll call videos.
Oh yeah, or like the you mean like the Parade of Champions sort of thing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I miss that too.
I remember it was such a big deal. Like Hiromu was like fighting for there to be a junior Parade of Champions, and there finally was one. Like it was a big deal when they did the whole like big Parade of Champion videos.
Yeah, I miss that. I miss Harold May. Miss him running down to the ring after putting up a VTR video of him taking a shower and answering a phone call, and then he runs down to the ring like he's the Ultimate Warrior. I fucking love that.
I miss Kenny Omega.
It just got way too real in here, guys.
Pre-pandemic we had Kenny, we had Will.
Yeah, I miss.
We had Okada.
Yeah, we had Okada.
This is the number 2 company in the world,
right? Man, January 2020, we were on top of the world. Things were hot. Wrestle Dynasty was gonna happen in Madison Square Garden.
I still laugh because every now and then, since then, I had bought stuff from the New Japan shop, and every time they put in a Wrestle Dynasty pin, and I'm like, man, remember when this was going to be a thing? And it still hasn't become a thing yet.
Oh, it's never happening.
Yeah, it's done.
Oh, I know.
It's done. Let's see. Next question here from Def Triangle 720. Do you think it's time for Chaos to disband? The group ran its course since 2018, which was their peak.
Sure, it's time for them to disband. United Empire, Bullet Club, lots of them. Let's get them all out of there.
I would be all for a pre Bushiroad acquisition Stardom shakeup where basically they they either get rid of all the groups, they pick a handful of leaders, and they go round by round and just draft people. And whether you like it or not, you get put in a different faction.
I like when, I think they might do this in Stardom, I don't know, but I like when DDT would do like the faction has to disband sort of matches, and people are literally fighting for their lives for their faction not to die. Like they should be doing stuff like that.
Yeah, the closest they've had was when Momo Watanabe defected from Queen's Quest to join Oedo Tai. But now that they've lost Utami as well, who knows what I'm pretty sure they're just going to keep Queen's Quest because it's one of their longest running factions. But yeah, I feel like unless Chaos gets restructured or they put somebody who is an up-and-comer at the center of it, it's just going to be basically Yo babysitting all the Chaos dads, which is Yoshihashi, Goto, Yano, and Ishii. Because that's all that's there. Well, I mean, Leo Rush is Chaos adjacent, but he hasn't been back in a very long time either. So,
dude, I saw a promoter trying to track him down on Twitter just the other day.
Yeah, same.
Yo or Leo Rush.
Leo.
People were like, it'd be good if you had advertised him before you made the announcement. Like we did. We had him locked down months ago. He's just not showing up for the date, I guess. I don't know.
Yep.
Well, that's what happened in New Japan. Oh, no, I'm sorry. He got sick. But you've never seen him in the company ever again.
Allegedly. Next question says, for the amount of money New Japan is paying Riddle and Nemeth, what 3 talents would you trade for them?
Okada, Ospreay, and Jay White.
I don't think they would take that trade, though.
They took that from us.
Yeah, Tony Khan's not putting Matt Riddle on his TV. Maybe.
No, I'm talking about them. Like if you offered Nick Nemeth money to Okada right now, he'd be like, "Fuck no."
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I can't really.
Do they have to be from AEW or just in general?
It could be anybody, but I don't have any names.
I mean, Shinsuke would be interesting for the nostalgia. Shinsuke and AJ, just to give them something.
The names that are appealing to me are the ones that we're speculating on. I want to see Kiyomiya come over. I want to see Nakajima wrestle.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of other great names.
And was it Ayato Yoshida? Those 3. Those are those sign those 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also asked, do you think New Japan doesn't utilize social media like other promotions?
I think they use it a lot like other promotions.
They use it like a lot of Japanese companies do for promotion, not engagement.
Yeah, and they don't. I mean, the whole gift thing is a Bushiroad thing, but besides that, I think
that's a Japanese broadcast thing.
Yeah.
There's no concept of fair use in Japan, even though, you know, a lot of wrestling promotions, like the smaller promotions, like even like Noah and DDT to an extent, they permit it, but because they have their own platform for streaming, because New Japan has the broadcast deal with Asahi TV. That's very much, I think, Japanese broadcast regulation. That's why they come down so hard on it.
Yeah. Also asked, do you think Vegeta could actually be a champion by the end of this year?
Oh, sure. There's a lot of belts in New Japan, so I mean, take your pick.
Never 6 or a tag champion. I don't think they'll put a singles title on him just yet.
I would love for him to be the guy to show up and win Super Juniors.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But I'm not sure if he's ready for that yet, though.
Oh, he's ready. I saw him the other night. He's ready.
Well, I mean, the
but
game.
Also, Robbie Eagles is right there. Robbie's been there. He's waited his turn.
They did have Watto win last year, so
he wasn't ready, and he never will be ready.
Maybe Watto will be the return in Sakura Genesis.
No, he's out for another 9 months.
He's out. Unless he's like got John Cena level of, you know,
cyborg knees.
Yeah. Got them PEDs.
Got hydraulics put in his knee now.
He says, what if New Japan took a different route and have Nemeth versus Kid for the global title with Gabe winning?
They're not going to do that. So what if?
I like Gabe. I don't think he's ready yet.
He's clearly being slotted to go after the strong open weight title to face Eddie Kingston. So
I think that would be a good starting point for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think he could be a global champ, but yeah, they're clearly, this whole Eddie feud still going on. I'm guessing at Resurgence he'll challenge Eddie.
Plus, it's not like he's got the biggest fans backstage right now after after that cage match.
Then his last question here: outside of LIJ, is there any group that feels special?
TMDK feels special. But I'm a shameless TMDK fangirl, so.
Is a Stray Dog Army still a thing?
Oh wow, that's a deep cut.
Well,
I would say Team Filthy, but they've broken up.
Bear Brown.
I think they are still kind of together.
Bear Brown lost the Strong Survivor match, so he's done.
Oh, okay.
I think those guys are now coaching in the dojo with Fred Rosser.
Then no.
Yeah, I mean,
there's always Bread Club. Bread Club will always feel special.
Bread Club for life.
My
Bread
favorite,
Club
my
for life.
My 3 favorite groups in New Japan right now would be Blue Justice Army,
Let's go.
Red Club, and
Strong Style was a thing until Suzuki just vanished and left Desperado by himself.
What about the commentary team? Is that a group?
It's definitely not a group.
The English commentary or Japanese commentary? Because I'm more of a Japanese commentary girl myself lately.
Either one. I mean, I love me some Milano.
Love me some Milano. Him and Mikimoto E are 2 of my favorite people on commentary.
Then overall last question here from Phenomenal1615. Also, if all UE members losing in the first round of the New Japan Cup, do you think they are trying to tell a story of an outsider coming in and take leadership of the United Empire because current members haven't stepped up, maybe leading to a splinter group or disbanding?
I get the distinct feeling they have no plans in place at all.
I feel like they keep them together for merch purposes because they sell a lot of merch and they are wildly popular with the Japanese fans. If they're going to have to pick a leader, I don't want them to bring somebody else in. I'd rather it be one of the original founding members, whether it's I feel like Okan would be the natural move. Right. But I feel like they could easily, as much as they want to put TJ in the front as the guy, I feel like they could also do that with Jeff because he's gotten pretty far in the G1 multiple times, but I don't want Riddle stepping in and taking over, basically replacing one blonde, blue-eyed white boy for another blonde, blue-eyed white boy. I don't want Jack Perry stepping into that role, and I don't want them to put Nick Nemeth in that role either. Like I want the United Empire, if they're going to have to pick a leader, to pick amongst the guys that are there. They could make Francesco Akira the front guy, but I don't think he's ready for that either.
I think the only way that could work is if it just have to be the right personality. Like, and yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I think that
Callum Newman isn't ready for it either.
Callum Newman's not ready.
But he's not ready.
On the just judging from his promos in the back, he's not like from a confidence level ready, but he's got the look and the style to be that guy. But I don't think that anybody else in the group, they've already passed on all of them. It's pretty clear they're not going to make any of them the leader. No. So
and we don't know when Hanari's coming back either.
Yeah,
or if he's coming back based on the extent of his injury. So
right.
Yeah, I could see Riddle. I don't want to be, but I could easily see them having Riddle.
I'd rather they not.
Yeah. All right, well, that's it for the questions. Last thing here, recommended match of the week. Last week, Josh recommended that we watch Mayu versus
Shuri.
Yeah.
So good.
January 4th. And after watching, I think we did watch this already.
I watched this. I didn't know if you had watched it or not to review.
When I was watching it seemed very familiar.
Okay. But did we review it on the show? That's why
I don't remember.
Well, I'm going to do this week. I will go through our backlog and I will find all the recommended matches that we reviewed so that we have it up to date. But in terms of the match, Jeremy, what did you think?
I mean, I thought it was awesome. Mayu and Shuri, two incredible pro wrestlers, and to me, I feel like their title matches are usually longer. This one's a little bit shorter. It's like about 19 minutes. But yeah, it was hard hitting, very fast paced. It kind of had like a high speed kind of pacing to it, mixed in with the heavy strikes from Shuri, crazy bumps from Mayu. There's a nasty dragon suplex on the apron from Mayu to Shuri. There's a crazy DT to the floor. It was a crazy poison Rana spot that Mayu did to Shuri, and yeah, they go out there and they killed it. It was an incredible matchup, and I think this will definitely be something to put on for our excursion match of the year.
Yeah, I thought the match was really great. I agree. I think that there were some segments that were definitely like high speed inspired, and then they went into the stiff, shots, and then a lot of big drops and big moves. For me, and I've watched this match twice now, and I still think that there's a disconnect, and I think it has something to do with the style. Like the two things that stand out to me about this match and about from what I've seen from Stardom that are really incredible. One is like the vulnerability that you see with the performers, like with the emotion, they can kind of like emote in a different way that like men's wrestling you don't see so much, and kind of tap into like an emotion of the match where like there's desperation and they're a lot more vulnerable with their emotions in the match, and you see like desperation and the clawing and like the people that are like, they're trying to not lose a match, even when it's like, you could see it slipping out of their hand and everything like that. And then the stiffness of the match is like next level. Like they're really, really headbutting and kicking and hitting each other like hard as fuck and doing some really death defying stuff in there. But the two things that for me watching this, where I was like, I don't know if maybe I just don't understand. Well, actually there's three things. One, because I'm not watching Stardom very regularly, it feels like there's always a lot of callbacks to different interconnected stories that I'm just not privy to. And so I can kind of tell that there's a sense of appreciation that maybe I don't have because I'm not as tuned into the stories. The second thing, and I thought that this was weird, this crowd was silent, like very, very silent, and not like in the like respectful Japanese crowd silent. Like this was still at one point I really was asking myself, like, what were their clap crowd like mandates on, but then they did cheer for some stuff, and I was like, why are they so non-reactive to the big stuff that's happening in this match? And I couldn't really figure that out, especially with this being a bigger show. I don't know if it had something to do with it being on January 4th and maybe drawing like outside, I don't know, like outside people that were traveling for like Wrestle Kingdom, that sort of thing. And then the last thing is the structure of the actual match is very different. Like it kind of reminds me of like when people watch Lucha and they're like, I don't like this because it's not what I'm used to, but they're just not used to the structure. I feel like that's how it is for me when I watch Joshi, because there is a completely different match structure than what I'm used to seeing. And it almost sometimes feels a little bit meandering to where there's not the heat, there's not the shine, there's not really the same kind of comebacks. Like stuff is happening, but I'm not like gripping into it the way I typically would with a New Japan big style match, like their house style. I kind of know the beats that are coming, and I'm like, oh, even though I know it's what it is, it's so good because I'm used to it. But with like Joshi, stuff is happening, and I'm like, where are we going with this? Like, I'm not sure. And then it's like, boom, big finish comes, and I'm like, oh shit, she just beat her. It's over. So I still feel like for me, stylistically, there's a bit of a disconnect. The match is undoubtedly great, but I don't know if I connect with it. Like judging from the reactions I'm seeing online, even still, I think I'm probably like 4 or 4.25 on it. I'm a little bit lower on the totem pole than your average Joshi fan, because it looks like it's the highest rated Joshi match of the year.
Mayu was quoted recently as saying it was probably one of the best matches of her entire career. The difficult thing about Mayu and Shuri is that as two of Stardom's top talents and two of Stardom's longest running World of Stardom champions, is that they both, to an extent, have to be protected, even though they don't need to be protected. There's also the not necessarily disappointment on the talent's part, but this was the first year that New Japan and Stardom, ran shows, but Stardom wasn't featured on Wrestle Kingdom, especially after last year when Tam and Kyrie got 5 whopping minutes and then 15 minutes of Mercedes Moné. And Mayu finding that out at the strategy meeting from the owner of Bushiroad and Obari and Tanahashi being like, so we're on Wrestle Kingdom, right, on the 4th? And they're like, yeah, no, you're on the Stardom show before Wrestle Kingdom. They weren't even the dark, like no Stardom was featured even on the dark matches on Wrestle Kingdom this year. So I think like there's also that kind of frustration, not just on the talent side, but also on the fan side, because with all the, they've put the impetus on Mayu as, being the champion after Mercedes, but she wasn't given the same platform or like enough opportunity as previous Stardom matches have been. And Mayu tends to be more of your all-arounder technical wrestler, and Shuri is very technical, but she's also more like very striker heavy. So even though they're very like power-wise, they're both very balanced. For some reason, there are times where they have the most amazing matches together, but then there are other times where, unless you know how Mayu was one of the people that Shuri had to chase for the red belt, and she was never able to beat Mayu. And that's part of the story that doesn't really get talked about. And they don't have English commentary either. So unless you're following somebody who can do regular Joshi analysis for you, there are like kind of information gaps, because as much as New Japan does provide like updates and a little bit of background on what's happening in Stardom, Stardom doesn't regularly provide English commentary, English content outside of their Twitter account. So there is a long story behind that. And, the IWGP Women's Championship for Shuri, that's one of the only things she hasn't done in Stardom. Like she bypassed the Wonder of Stardom Championship altogether, went straight for the red belt after winning the 5-star Grand Prix. So it's like getting into the company, working about a year and a half, winning the G1, and then winning the World Championship a year later, 6 months later. So for her, it's like there's nothing left to do. So people were expecting that, but then at the same time, they also know that Mayu has the biopic movie coming out next month in May, which incidentally, Shuri plays the role of Kagetsu, which should make it interesting when the film comes out to see how that translates, because Kagetsu was the leader of Oedo Tai many years ago. But it makes it interesting because they can have good matches. I just don't know if it was due to a time constraint, because with each other, I believe they tend to have longer than just like a sub 20-minute match. They can go 30 minutes, no problem.
No, I mean the work was great. Like they did really death-defying stuff. They were super stiff. Like the execution of the moves isn't for me necessarily the issue. It's more just like the structure of when and how they do it is so different from what I'm used to seeing out of almost all of the wrestling. It's just like it's just happening, and maybe it's a more organic thing than what I'm used to, but it doesn't seem to be as narrative driven. And this isn't just with this match. It's kind of what I've noticed with a lot of like modern Joshi, where I'm not like as tuned into the structure or the style. And like I said, the closest thing I could liken it to is like taking a North American wrestling fan and putting them in front of a lucha match on Friday night, and they're like, this is so different from anything else I watch. That's sort of like, for me, like, I don't know. I think I still kind of struggle connecting with modern Joshi, where other people are like, you're smoking rocks. This is like,
I think the context also needs to be there, because it's like, if you're going to put somebody in front of a lucha, if they don't understand why, El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. is really important, or why Atlantis and Atlantis Jr. and Atlantis Jr. is, if you don't understand the history about it, you're like, all right, these are big dudes doing flippy things, and they're doing, like, instead of having one pinfall, they're having 3 pinfall. Like, it just, if you don't, you need the more information. And I just hope moving forward that they consider English commentary for Stardom, because they do it on occasion. But if you want to make more people care about it, or bring people who aren't normally used to watching it, like yourself or anybody else who has Stardom curious or Joshi curious people, excuse me.
One thing that I thought was strange, though, was just the lack of reaction from the crowd, because we big matches in New Japan, like, there's always a lot of crowd reaction, and in here it was like, I thought that I thought it was a clap crowd until, like, towards the end they started cheering, and I was like, they are dead silent, and they were doing crazy shit, and it wasn't popping the audience at all. And I'm like, why?
Well, when it comes to Mayu and Shuri, they're used to it, but also the week before they had just had their version of Wrestle Kingdom, which was All-Star Dream Queendom. Right. That's their biggest show, and it's like it's on like the 29th of December. So it's like they had 4 days off, and then like they're back on January 4th, first show of the year. People have had time to rest, but there really wasn't much story buildup other than you're the IWGP Women's Champion. I haven't held that belt. Let's have a match. And for some people, that's enough storytelling. But yeah, it could be they're also burnt out from New Year's, because all they do is eat, sleep, and drink during New Year's. So, and
plus, I think the IWGP Women's title is probably not even really seen as a real Stardom.
It's not a Stardom title. That's another argument for probably another day. But there is mixed feelings in Stardom about having to constantly have their biggest, like, popular talents carrying New Japan titles, where they have to choose between dates where they work Stardom versus working New Japan, or if they're going to put the talents on them, why are the belts being defended on Stardom shows instead of New Japan shows? Because Stardom isn't New Japan's women division, but that's what they get treated as sometimes.
I think the moral of the story is, when we drop in for some of these matches, we need to do a little bit more background search, because Jeremy, you struggled a little bit last week with the Shingo and Mochizuki match, and kind of similar thing.
Yeah.
But
well, if it comes to Stardom and Joshi stuff, you know where to find me. I can give you a little bit of context and help fill in some of the gaps.
Jeremy, do you have a recommended match of the week this week?
Yeah, WrestleMania weekend is upon us. I say that we watch the Bloodsport match, the global champion Nick Nemeth versus Speedball Mike Bailey.
We'll watch that. See, I wasn't even sure if we're counting Nick Nemeth, because he's really a TNA guy, but I guess he's the champion. I don't know. I'm still always iffy on, I guess at the end of the year, we'll kind of decide some of that stuff. But for me, I'm going to do a classic match that we can go back and look at. So in preparation for the upcoming title match, let's do New Japan Summer Struggle Night 8 from 2021 from Korakuen Hall, Tetsuya Naito versus Yota Tsuji.
Ooh. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up. Karen, thanks so much.
One last thing before we let Karen go. Are you guys watching WrestleMania week this week? Do you have a lineup planned or no? Like, because there's almost.
Oh, I do.
Oh, okay.
I am celebrating Couch at Mania, baby. I've got all the Joshi going on. I'm gonna even watch a little bit of GCW, some Bloodsport.
But Bloodsport and Stardom are going head to head.
I've got multiple screens of it at my disposal. I will do the tablet, TV. I'm gonna be at my parents' house, but I will. They understand that this is usually the week I travel, but I'm not traveling. So, right. But yeah, the Bloodsport show will always be good. Don't know if I'm gonna stay or what make watch Joey Janela's spring break, but that always seems to be a good time. Mania, if the women get some, if they announce what days the women's matches are, maybe I'll watch one day or both days. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Looking at Mania week, like it's not hitting like it used to hit, and I know it's kind of overwhelming with like all these just random shows happening, and then also you got the bigger stuff like the Ring of Honor, Super Card of Honor, and also both nights of WrestleMania. And there's, Sakura Genesis this weekend as well.
Yeah. The multiple Joshi shows are the highlight of the weekend because most of the other shows look really pretty shitty. A lot of them anyways. But,
yeah,
the Old Faithfuls are going to be good. Like, the Mark Hitchcock and Bloodsport, Spring Break, and that sort of stuff is probably still going to be good. But
yeah. And the second thing is a lot of like those good shows are like going head to head with each other.
A lot of them are going head to head. Like I was saying earlier, the only real true New Japan representation you have is Kenta is defending the Defy Championship against Gringo Loco at the Defy show on Thursday, and then he's getting on a plane and flying to Japan so he can defend the IWGP Tag Team titles at Sakura Genesis. But that's really it. There's like literally no New Japan shows. There's no TNA show. There's no Multiverse United shit. Like
I honestly was hoping for Multiverse United, but I knew when they announced Sakura Genesis to be the Saturday of Mania week that they weren't.
Yeah,
they were going to focus all their energy on Windy City Riot the following weekend,
which makes sense. I mean, they got a sold out house for that show. They're kind of creating their own little weekend there with the press conference and the fan meet and greet. So makes sense. All right, so we'll watch both of those matches for next week. Karen, go ahead and tell the listeners where they can find you online and anything that you're working on.
Well, if you want to follow my wrestling journey, you can find most of the stuff I do over at postwrestling.com. I cover largely New Japan. I do the monthly show reviews with my co-host, Bruce Lord. I also do the monthly Pro Res wrap-up with WH Park. For those who are Joshi curious, I do have a monthly column called Dream Slam Monthly. The most recent one that dropped yesterday does include all the Joshi adjacent and Joshi featured shows for Mania Week with ways to watch the shows if you are not traveling to the Philadelphia area. And so when this goes live, I'll just like retweet it and patch that on there. But you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter at Hey Karen Sensei. And I kindly ask, if you find me on Facebook, don't add me. I only add my real life friends and coworkers from past jobs. So I would rather not have my wrestling fandom follow me there. Thank you.
So yeah, go ahead, follow Karen. She's doing a lot of great work. Go check out her stuff she's doing there on Post Wrestling, all the other wrestling places she's at. Well, that's going to wrap things up here for us this week. Next week, we'll be back to review Sakura Genesis and preview Windy City Riot. So if you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure to connect with us on social media. On X, follow us at KI Strong Style, at Social Suplex, at Jeremy L. Donovan. On Facebook, follow us at facebook.com/Social Suplex and the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy, just keeping it strong style. On YouTube, we are at Social Suplex. You can join our Social Suplex Discord server to interact with us and other wrestling fans. And you can also email me, jeremy@socialsuplex.com. Check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. All Things Elite, hosted by Floyd Johnson Jr. and Austin Samoans. Imp's WWE Adventure, hosted by The Implications' Matthew Mayer. Wrestling Art with Chris Things, Tunnel Talk with Allie and Leah, and the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review, and we'll catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichibon.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.